Welcome back to Bad Movies Rule, the worst movie podcast ever recorded. And this week, we have the man who knows a lot about a little and a little about a lot. Dr. Ryan Madela is in the house.
He is.
And from Wisconsin, by way of North Carolina, the Reverend Charles Hewitt.
Thank you.
And welcome back for the first time since Roller Boys, Mr. Rob King.
Yeah. Stay the rope.
And Ryan Mueller's at the kids' table.
Hey, Ryan Mueller.
Hey.
Crash and burn. That's what's going to happen.
We got a kid at the kids' table. He's already playing with a Rubik's Cube.
It's the only way to start this. Here we go. You ready? Greetings, listeners. You have been recruited by the BMR League to defend the frontier against Tom Arnold in the bad movie Armada. Welcome in. We're talking about Last Starfighter today, guys. What's up, everybody? How's everyone doing?
Doing good.
Doing well.
I got my Quick Trip coffee.
Perfect.
Karuba.
You came in wired, ready to go.
Karuba Cafe. I just came from a dinner party and I had a lot of coffee there, and I figured I need more, but I may
Splendid.
not.
And Rob, so nice to have you back, man.
Yeah, it's great to be back. And I would like to not be associated with Day of the Rope anymore.
Oh, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, every time that I come in and somebody gives me a Nazi salute, it's like, you know.
That's true.
like to
No
put that
one
in
gave
the
you a
past.
Nazi. Okay, maybe.
And here on, we shall let that die.
We'll let that die.
Starting now.
Good idea,
But-
Rob. See, he's the wise one in the bunch.
Well, as you pointed out when you came in, this is the prayer of the Roller Boys group.
It
with,
is.
Right.
with the doctor added in. Otherwise, it's the same four.
Except
That's
we were
right.
in their location.
We were in the other one, so it's here we are.
Yeah.
Coming back again. That was almost 40 episodes ago, I
Wow,
want to
that's
say.
a long time.
Yeah, long time. So, but we're back in together.
Yes.
Let's dive straight into this thing. We'll give you guys the vitals, and then we're going to get this thing kicked off. Last Starfighter, 1984.
84. I was 8 years oldish.
And somebody here wasn't born yet.
Wasn't born.
I wonder who that was.
Good doctor.
Well, the movie was directed by Michael Myers, the famous serial murderer
Yeah,
from the
weird
Halloween
the
movies.
connections between Halloween movies in this.
Isn't that weird?
That's really weird.
So Nick Castle, the director, is the guy that played the Shape in Halloween.
Yeah.
And even in the new ones that just came out the last few years with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
He was the original one. Now in all the sequels, it wasn't him. But then when they made this new rebooted series, he came back and did it again. So
I have never seen a
literally
Halloween movie.
Mike Myers directed Last Starfighter.
Nice.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Multi-talented.
It's also the second movie he's directed that's been on our show. He also directed Major Pain, which we did a while back.
Really? I like Major
So,
Pain. I
same
didn't
guy.
Look up his Vita curricula.
Now, I'm going to
Vitae.
probably pronounce this guy's name wrong. It was written by Jonathan Betuel, I'm going to say. B-E-T-U-E-L?
Yes.
Betuel?
Betuel.
Okay.
Betuel.
It was the first movie he'd ever gotten done. He's written a few things since then, but he's well known for The Last Starfighter. The movie stars Lance Guest, Robert Preston, the Music Man himself, Catherine Mary Stewart, and Dan O'Hare. I'm going to say this wrong again. O'Harely?
O'Harely.
O'Harely.
I don't know. I was wondering how you were going to say that too.
I don't know. I'm so bad at this.
Well, that's
Sometimes
a weird name,
mispronounce
that
it.
O-H-E-R-I-L-H-Y.
O'Harlehy.
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 That's
You know,
how
one of the things that's really sad when you look at the Last Starfighter Wikipedia page is anytime you click on a link of somebody's name,
Yeah.
it goes to their page and it says best known for the Last
Starfighter.
right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
sort of like
That can't be true.
everybody was thinking, okay, I'm on my way up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, but
This
this
is
is
it.
This
the
was
peak.
the peak.
Well,
This is
now, that's not true. Preston and O'Harlehy were pretty famous dudes by now. I
Oh
guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
those
were.
guys
The
were
two
like-
of them.
They were like,
But this was Preston's last film.
yes, it was.
Yeah.
He died.
Well, 3 years later, but
And
it
so
was his
did,
last film,
Otis,
yeah.
the African American wise man.
That's true. And Lance Guest went on to have, I mean, not nearly the career it looked like he was starting out to have.
Yes.
I mean, he famously was also in another movie we're going to get to at some point, Jaws 4, The Revenge.
Oh, well, how
yeah.
could you go bad
High
with
quality.
that?
In fact, we have a signed 8x10 in the studio from Lance Guest.
Really?
Of Jaws 4, and it says the shark sucked, but not as much as Bob. Lance Guest.
Really?
So, yeah.
Excellent.
We need a Last Starfighter signature from him.
Matt Mulholland, one of our patrons, actually works comic conventions. It's his job,
Wow.
and so he hooks us up sometimes with autographs and signatures and things like that.
That's
So
pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. So eventually we'll have Jaws 4 happening on here, I'm sure.
I like that he can take a joke on his movies.
Yeah.
Unlike
that's
someone
cool.
else who's named after trash.
What are you
can.
going to do when you star in Jaws 4?
Jaws 4.
I mean,
Was that the one
you
with
either
Michael
embrace
Caine?
it or
Right.
yeah, Michael Caine famously had to
listen.
pay for a beach house right? He said, the movie's dreadful, but the house it paid for was beautiful.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I
is
mean,
what
if
he
you're in a
always
movie with Michael Caine, you can't go wrong. You just say, I was in a movie with Michael Caine, and everyone goes, all right, you're a good actor.
That's one of the most, how did this
Seriously.
happen, castings
'Cause he needed
in
a beach
movie
house.
history.
Because sometimes the guys just got to work, right?
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing. I mean, all of us have done shitty jobs, and none of us have gotten a beach house out of it.
It's true.
Right.
So it's like,
That is
if
very
you
true.
could
I didn't
do
even
a
get it.
terrible thing and then say, well, but I do have this
Right.
beach house.
I didn't
And
even get a
spend-
Barbie beach house out of any of my crappy.
And spend 3 months in the Bahamas, right?
Right.
Making a movie can't be that
Oh,
bad.
that was Bahamas? Well, yeah.
Movie had a budget. Well, this movie, we're back to Last Starfighter, less on Jaws 4 for now. Budget of $15 million and a box office of $29 million, which was the only way this movie
I
qualified.
was going to say, because I looked
Right.
at IMDb as I'm watching this movie with my family last night. And I'm
Barely.
going, wait a second. It's
Yeah.
like 76% critics, 70% audience.
Yeah, which we're about to get to.
Almost 30 million. It was made for, you want to tell us?
Yeah, well, $15 million was the
15.
budget, and then
Right.
29. So it made 14, because remember, the theater gets half. So essentially made $14 million.
Yeah, so I felt
Yeah.
like
So it underperformed.
Barely. I mean, it just
Barely.
broke even.
Right.
And so for
I
us,
mean-
the qualifiers, it's either got to lose at the box office or be under a 6.5 on IMDb or rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's neither of those things.
no.
Well, and that's where I think there's a missing criteria that I haven't figured out what it is, but there is a criteria out there somewhere that we're missing in our.
We'll see. Is it that
our
Ryan
list.
Nadler hates movies?
Yeah, because right now it's a
Hates the
6.
movie.
Man.
It's a 6.7 on IMDb and a 76% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 70% audience score.
That's amazing. That might be the best reviewed movie we've done yet.
Well, here's the thing. I went on the Rotten Tomatoes, and on the first page, there's like 15 positive reviews, maybe one negative, right?
Right.
And there's only 88 reviews total. I didn't click through all the pages.
Okay, 88.
But all 15 of those reviews were dated 2022. So there might be a little bit of a recency bias, and I don't know
Yeah.
what this would have been
How did
necessarily rated
this-
by critics when this came out in
How
1984.
did this get recency bias?
Oh, I'm just saying, like the kids, like or the people that are reviewing it now for all these various websites or whatever, they're going back to it and reviewing it. Probably you're seeing it through a different lens than when it came out in 1984.
Is it because they're letting people like us on IMDb?
I mean, I don't know.
Well, they haven't
Rotten
yet.
Tomatoes, not yet.
That's right. What do we
Not
got to
yet.
do?
We have to get 200 reviews on Apple Podcasts to qualify.
I don't have an iPhone and I hate Apple, so I can't help.
Well, sorry,
go on
man.
your computer.
There's people out there that have Apple Podcasts and are listening to us on it right
If
now.
you're an Apple
and if you
person,
haven't,
do it.
sometimes when I say leave us a review, people think they got to type out a
don't
paragraph.
type stuff.
Literally, just tap the 5
5.
stars, hit send, and you're good to go.
That's all you got to do.
That's
Not 2, not 3,
I mean,
not 4.
no.
Just keep going
5.
for the 5.
Just go
If you
5.
think we suck, don't review the show. Just
No.
send us an email at thisshowIstrash@gmail.com. We will share and
Yes.
read your bad review. We will have fun with it. We don't mind if you think we suck.
Yeah.
Just don't hit the stars, okay? Please, that hurts us.
You can even send us physical mail
Yeah.
if you hate us that much.
Wait,
P.O. Box 383.
I just heard stamps went.
We're waiting, man.
Yeah, stamps did go up. You think that's why people haven't sent us any mail? Because
Yes.
stamps are 63 cents?
Look, let's do this.
Let's do it.
Keep going.
Go.
Where are we at? Where are we at?
We're going to start the movie. We haven't even started the
I'm
movie
totally
yet.
confused between Jaws 4 and stamps, where we're at right now.
We're starting the movie. All right, here we go. Ready?
Yeah.
Let's jump in.
All right.
We're starting at the Starlight, Starbright Trailer Court. Sounds better than a trailer park. Sounds much fancier.
It does.
It does.
Sounds
yeah.
better than tornado
And they
magnets.
were
It's not better.
They were really friendly neighbors.
That was
They were-
the
It
nicest
was-
trailer
Yes.
Yeah.
park. It was basically like a Norman Rockwell
It was.
trailer
Yeah.
park. It's like no meth.
No?
No.
No, mess. Everything was
Sweet old ladies and well-behaved teenagers.
right. And they all
A crummy electrical grid, but other
Yeah,
than that,
but they
hey,
would all
you know.
tell each other if your power was out, you just shouted.
you just
That was
and
the
then
phone
other
system.
people would shout.
Yeah.
that guy watering the pavement in the background. I don't know if you guys saw that. He was just out there. There was no yard. He's just watering. the
And it had
ground.
a little clubhouse type place with
Yep.
restaurant.
Well, and that was up on the hill with that beautiful little sign that said Starlight, Starbright. And there was something in it with the stars above it. It was sort of
Yes.
very idyllic. It made me feel like
It was.
I need to be in a
Into a trailer park.
The other thing I thought was odd
I love
about
the
that
setting.
trailer park
Yeah.
was they were like RV trailers, not mobile homes, which seemed odd to me.
Right, they were mobile caves
Right.
that never went anywhere.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
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 That's right.
So,
More on that later.
More on that. So we get into this place. It's just setting the scene, and all the people seem nice and friendly and affable. And we see the first two main characters we meet is Maggie, who is there looking for Alex, and Alex's little brother Lewis in a spaceman suit with his dart gun, and he's also trying to find Alex.
kid's awesome. He just shoots darts randomly.
Lewis is great. Yeah.
Runs past the house and shoots in without looking.
That's right.
Oh,
Almost
no.
takes grandma
Why
out
do we have
there.
this dart gun on the
Kinda like that.
table,
See?
sitting
Just like that.
rambunctious?
Are you going to be
Just
Lewis
like
today? Is that what's going to
Lewis.
happen?
I can be Lewis.
I did have a little bit of a problem with that because every time that I've done that as a kid,
You did
I
get
would
that
shoot them and then I would go grab the dart so I could shoot someone else.
I was wondering
I
about
wouldn't
that.
just. I know you don't just.
No.
That really
waste-
bothered you?
It
Yeah,
shows you
12 darts walking through a trailer park and then you don't have any darts.
There's just darts
in
everywhere.
This trailer park,
Movies
people were
these
so
days.
nice they returned the darts.
There you go.
That's probably what happened.
Yeah.
So they find Alex, and here's where we meet our main character. He is playing a game, Starfighter. There's an arcade game right outside the store / eatery, it looks like, up above on the top of the hill of the trailer park. And it's your typical space shooter. Looks like maybe a heightened version of Asteroids, at least for the time, in 1984.
Right.
Was pretty top end.
Far advanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where we get a little bit of backstory into Alex. Maggie comes up, says, "Hey, aren't you coming to the beach with us?" They're friends in their pickup, pull up, and she wants to go to the beach. Mom starts screaming about fixing Elvira's electrical stuff because she wants to see her soaps.
That didn't look like Elvira.
And so he's not
Different
that
Elvira.
Elvira.
Oh, different Elvira. Okay.
He's like,
Pipe
She
down.
was in this movie?
No,
I missed
not
that
that
part.
essentially, we see that Alex is somebody that wants to get out of the trailer park.
Yes.
He's kind of tied, wants to go have fun, live his life. He's got pictures of France and other
He doesn't
places.
want to fix the power converters.
He doesn't want to do that. Not like Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
Not the only tie to Star Wars.
No, this is a totally different movie.
And we do find this first time we hear this hint about, I'm not going to end up going to the city college like you idiots,
Yeah,
is basically
he was a
what
little
he's
rough on
saying.
his buddies, and they were
Yeah.
pretty nice to him for the way he acted.
Yeah.
Maybe they knew Alex a little grumpy in the morning.
And so we get the sense that Alex thinks this is a pit stop on the way to bigger and better things. for him.
He's dreaming of a better life for that Alex.
He walked
kid.
up and he's like, "What a piece of junk."
Yeah.
Well, he literally does say, but I wanted to go with my friends to, it's just
Yeah.
the Tashi's
Yes.
station thing. Exactly. Right.
All right, now that you say that.
The director swears that's not the case.
He fights pretty hard
He
to defend
does. I read it on IMDb, so it has to be.
the comparisons people make between this and Star Wars.
I think after he started, he realized that wasn't true.
Well, he said he kind of ran into that same thing with the South Park. He used to joke around about Simpsons did it, right? When South Park was
Yeah.
trying to make episodes. He goes, every corner I backed into
I heard
George
that.
or Steven
Yeah.
and what they had done previously and things. And he realized they really knew what they were doing when they made these movies because I
Yes.
can't make a move without bumping into something they had
Right.
done already.
You know what he did have?
Yeah.
Was a lifted Dodge Ram truck with one of them old-fashioned hooter horns.
You like that?
That was awesome. A couple times that
Cool
comes
truck.
up.
Yeah.
All right.
Honk, hooter hoot,
So
hooter hoot,
the first day we run into
hooter hoot.
basically we get the cast of characters that are in they're in the trailer park, and then we kind of shift into the nighttime, and Alex is back there playing Starfighter again, and he has a couple of conversations, which again just color in some of the character of the people. And so the first person he talks to is Otis, who is let's say the token black guy in the movie. I mean, it's 1984.
No, he's not just the token black guy. He's the token wise black guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
He's like the, yes.
Yeah.
Sage.
Yes.
The sage
term that comes to mind.
because he's in here already giving him life advice. If you
Yes.
find something you want, you
I
gotta
love
grab
Otis'
onto it
character.
with both hands and hold on tight to it, right? And
Yeah.
and go for your dreams and all
right.
that type of tropey wise black guy in a movie stuff. Right?
I mean, it's better
for the
to be
stuff.
that, I suppose, than some other tropes of black people. But
well, I was
it's
thinking about
kind
that.
of
I was thinking about
unfortunate.
Solar Babies. I know you watch Solar Babies,
Yep.
but like,
Saw that,
at least the token black guy in Solar Babies was like, "Hey, you're the beatboxing, rapping, cool black
guy didn't
guy."
know
And-
They didn't make Otis beatbox thing.
no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So at least he
Otis
you
really
know.
didn't do the Morgan Freeman thing either.
No,
So
I liked Otis' character.
Otis was awesome.
good.
cool.
I liked him.
Then Maggie comes in, and Maggie gets dropped off by douche guy in the truck, and
Yeah.
comes over to talk to Alex at the arcade machine, and they have another little discussion about their relationship and all that. And then this is where things kind of kick off, at least plot wise. she casually notices that his score in Starfighter is hitting 900,000.
Getting up there.
And it's getting up there,
Yeah,
right?
It's exciting. In fact, it's so exciting. Everybody comes out.
The whole town
The whole
comes to
trailer
see.
park. I mean, court. Sorry, trailer court.
They would celebrate like this was the Rose Bowl on New
Seriously.
Year's Day, right?
Alex is gonna win. Come on, Grandma, with the headphones. Come
Yeah.
on, everybody. It was great.
One of the things. So, okay, just to back up a little bit,
Yeah.
I was very excited to see this because I loved it when I was, 18 years old and saw it the first time. And in fact, my son and I were out at Los Compadres, and I said, "Hey, for BMR, we're going to be doing The Last Starfighter." And then he seems to notice a guy sitting behind us, and he sort of waves at him. And I said, "Is there somebody you know?" And he said, I turned around, and the guy behind, who was like my age, said, "The Last Starfighter, that's my favorite film."
Nice.
Right.
Wow.
And so I was like, I like it too. And so then Aiden and I went home and watched it, and I watched it between my son and my wife, and they disabused me of that this film was any good. Basically, scene by scene, And so one of the things that I said about Alex was I said, you have to understand, if you're an 18-year-old nerd
Yeah.
in 1984, this is like nerd
This is
wish
the
fulfillment.
Yeah.
He has a girlfriend and she's cute.
Right.
And he's playing a game and people care whether he gets the top score.
Right.
I mean, all of these things are just like,
Seriously.
this is what you think,
Yes.
oh my gosh, could I live in a world where people would appreciate my
Yes.
my gameplay and I would actually have a girlfriend and all of these things would happen. That's
right.
And my answer as an 18-year-old boy was, yes, this world can exist.
Yes.
And my son's
that.
answer and my wife's answer was, no, this world does not exist. In fact, my wife said, he looks pretty handsome to be a game-playing nerd.
Oh, come on.
What she said.
Come on, Jennifer. Now, hold on. There are two things that struck me as very unrealistic in this scene. One
Yes.
is that he has a hot girlfriend that is okay with him playing games nonstop.
Right.
Not only that, is also kind of into it.
Right.
Right? Like she was kind of like
She was.
getting
Yeah.
excited
She's
about
supportive.
it. I'm like, that's not really realistic.
That's not,
So
I don't play video games. You mean your
Yeah.
wives aren't supportive about
No.
you guys playing video games?
were you going to say
mine
something?
is.
I'm sorry.
I just, as you were talking, the only thing I can think of now is just a bunch of nerds sitting in a movie theater just getting really turned on by this movie.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's some chick out there that
There's
want to
hope
watch
for
me get a high
us.
score.
Well, and not only that, all the town people come in, right? And so they're like,
excited.
There are people coming out of the shower with shampoo in their hair.
Yeah.
Right.
And like people are reading stories to their kids and they leave them there to go see. Oh, Alex is breaking the record? What's going
breaking
on?
the
Oh,
record.
he's breaking the
man.
record.
Breaking
There's
the
a
record.
surgeon who just stops and just
Surgeon stuff.
drops the scalpel inside the guy.
Let's be honest. They do live in a Starbright trailer
Yes.
court.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's in a very beautiful part of what I would assume is Southern California or Middle California, but
Yes.
there's not a lot going on.
You found that the most unrealistic thing, not the bed sheet with holes poked in it being the starry sky.
All right, hold on now. Hold on. Enough
There
body
was
view.
something strange about that scene.
Now,
I got the same setup in my garage.
the other thing from the time period that's not realistic, and Rob, you'll know, because like you said, you're the same character as Alex essentially in this year, right?
Right.
Yep.
Is that in the 1980s, old people did not think young people who played a lot of video games were cool.
No.
In fact, they thought they were idiots that were just draining their brains out of their ears.
Well, maybe
Right.
if they were grandmas that listened to headphones while they did their chores.
True.
They definitely
And
were
were
not
actually-
celebrating and carrying him off the field like he was Rudy at the end of the Notre Dame Penn
And
State
her
game.
grandma was actually in Star Trek, one of the original
Really?
episodes of the original Star Trek series.
Yeah.
Well, and what the other thing that I have to, because I was the only one that was the right age when this came out.
Yeah.
I have to kind of set the scene for you. We had the original Star Wars come out, which was a miracle in 1977.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was a $6 million film. This is $9 million more than this. Okay. So that came out, and then they had Empire Strikes Back, and we thought it can't work again. And then it was just as good, maybe even better. All right. So then we're thinking, okay, we're onto something. Battlestar Galactica comes out a year after Star Wars, gets canceled in 1 year.
Wow.
Battlestar Galactica 1980 comes out, and it's worse. Okay.
No.
We had the first Star Trek movie came out, and it was this bloated, overblown thing that
Boring.
took away everything that was great about Star
V'ger.
Trek.
You didn't like V'ger?
And then we had Wrath of Khan come out, and it was like, okay, well, that at least is fun again and feels like Star Trek
Wrath
again.
of Khan's awesome.
Yeah.
And then so we had. So my point is, when you're a young nerd,
Yes.
the idea right now is that anything science fiction, anything Marvel, anything geek-oriented, nerd-oriented is cool, and everybody loves it and embraces it. Yeah. That was not the case when this was right.
Point, yes.
And so when this came out, it was like, hey, it's not perfect, but it's something for us. Don't shit on it, please.
Right. 50 years
It's
from
like
now.
crumbs that you could live off of until the next one.
Exactly.
The old people would have been saying, "Get him off the stupid machine. He's on there all day."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He should be working.
Or doing something.
He was working. He was
Just some
using their
electrical effects.
electricity.
The actors, the energy they acted that scene with, and the reaction shots,
It was a little. It was
and everything. They're hugging each other.
It's too much.
I mean, it was just way over the top.
Right. But there was an 18-year-old me watching this thinking, oh, man.
If only they could be that way.
I mean, they were a very loving, supportive community.
I will say this: I think the thing this movie, there a lot of it is derivative, but the one thing that it has going for it that more than anything is this very original creative plot of what if you could be so good at a video game that someone will come and recruit you to do it for real.
And
Right.
it was
That's totally original and genius.
and it was a plant to recruit Starfighter.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And then there's also, I think, just a general sense of optimism and hope in this that's infectious if you are a person living in a world that is crushed by the opposite. To think, well, this could, I could actually save the universe.
For sure.
And I could have a girlfriend. And the other thing is the two of them,
What?
I know, Alex and Maggie are so, the two actors are so into each other. There's a real chemistry between them.
Beautiful.
And they're both beautiful. And I was 18 when I first saw this, so this isn't a 56-year-old man looking at her thinking, whoa, she's right. And so there was something just to have a girl look at you like that. I mean, that was, again, something that's like, that has not ever happened.
And they had very similar hair.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I thought they could have possibly been brother and sister.
Well, to get back to what's happening here, how cracked is Alex at Starfighter? He broke the record and was barely paying attention to the game.
best.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times during that he's like talking to Otis, he's like, "Oh, wait, I better pay attention." And then he's talking to Maggie, and she's the one that notices the score, and he's like,
Right.
"What?" Or like he's
That's a
barely
recurring theme in this movie too.
paying attention, and he blows the record out of the water.
It's like, oh yeah, I was thinking I might go get my dentist to fix my teeth later. And,
Well, and the other thing is that you never see him put a quarter in, so he must be playing on
the same game.
Yeah.
the
He just
same
pauses
game.
it. He unwires it quick.
That's true. I forgot you had to put
That's why
quarters
the
in
electricity
those
keeps
things.
going
Yeah.
on.
See, he
Yeah,
knows
that's
a
right.
little about everything. This is how he knows how to hack 1984 arcade games.
true.
Right over here, the computer doctor. Well, the townspeople, I mean, even as they walk away and you see the shot of Maggie and him sitting on their porch or whatever later, the townspeople are
That was
still
a sweet scene.
walking
Yeah.
they're going, "You're the man, Alex.
You're the man.
Yeah.
I'm going to name my kids after you."
If only I could find someone like you to tuck me in at night. Yeah.
Yeah, they were very excited.
And they have this heartfelt scene where Maggie essentially shares her fear with him that she can never leave this place. He's going to want to go somewhere, she thinks, to the city or somewhere else. And what about Granny? All of this stuff. And I'm not going to be able to leave. And so it sets up the tension in their relationship, and that Alex is the one that definitely wants to get out of here. And Maggie kind of wants to stick around and stay.
Right. And he's like, esports is coming up. I got to go.
That's right. But sadly, he goes inside the trailer and he sees his mom for the first time and tells her about the record. She's like, "Oh yeah, that's great. Guess who's going to City College, buddy?"
Yeah, Mom was.
She just like did not. She was like no sell. She's like, oh, you broke the record.
Mom was the
Big
most
whoop.
realistic character in the
Yeah.
movie. About
here's
that
a letter I
video
read,
stuff.
and your life's
Open your
The
mail.
one thing that occurred to me was that his loan didn't go through.
Yeah.
Now that's not what happens now. It's not that you apply for a loan to go to college and they say, no, we're not going to give you a loan.
Right.
Because we've got the FAFSA and everything else. So
Right.
you always get whatever loan you need to go to
Depends how You're going to
college.
be paying it.
Yeah.
But this apparently was at the time when there were no federal loans. So you had to
Right.
like
My wife
get an extra
questioned
loan.
that. It would be interesting. Maybe one of our loyal listeners can look back and
Federal
win all
loans.
that Pell grants and loans.
I think that came in like
1990.
late
1990. There you go.
1990.
There you
Yeah.
Oh, was it that late?
Yeah, so you just had to apply
Right
for a
around
loan, and they're like, "No, buddy, you play video
You-
games.
yes,
You're
I
not
was
going
gonna
to get
say.
a loan."
Your mom's
any
like,
collateral?
Alex, if you had been doing something beyond playing video games, you would have gotten into
right.
this college.
Now he'd get a video game scholarship.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, he storms back
Video
up into the
games.
parking lot and he throws his letter at the Star Bright sign. And just at that point, the arcade game starts to go a little wonky and it starts to freak out a little bit. And you hear
Greetings, Starfighter.
all that stuff over. And it
Can
actually
I-
was a little haunting. I remember as a kid being a little freaked out because I was like 6 or
Yes.
7 when I saw this,
Yes, I
not
was like
18. So I was like, what is it? There
Okay,
was a
so-
few things that scared me in this movie.
Two things you said there that are interesting. I think I was scared of this movie a little bit because I have ambivalent feelings about this movie watching it again. And I think scared was one of it because of some other special effects and things.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say as a proud father of a child who listens to this show
Oh, okay.
is when the machine starts moving
Yeah.
and it's like glowing and shaking back and forth. My daughter says, I feel like when an electric thing goes crazy, you shouldn't go near it. And then she mentions, this is the proud papa moment.
Yeah.
Maximum overdrive.
Oh,
There you go.
When the machine, the soda
turning
machine is
and-
killing the children and the guys with the Coke, and I'm like, I love my daughter so much.
Stay
I'm
away
so
from the
proud
soda
of her
machine.
listening to this and watching these bad movies with me.
Perfect.
I thought this 13-year-old
See, we're
is-
teaching
yes,
valuable life lessons.
That's right.
I did think it was weird that he literally just walked straight up to it, like it was no big deal.
right. He's like, oh, this is odd.
I mean, I guess that might have been they might have tried to seed that by saying, "Oh, he knows how to work with electrical,
Right.
so maybe he just have curiosity about it." But
you work with electric. Would you go up to a machine that was doing that?
slowly,
Yeah. Now that he's seen this movie, he will. He's going to
Right?
get recruited by Star Command.
That's right.
So
run up, grab on.
What's the equivalent of that today? You're going to be dropped out of a flying bus
That's what I'm
into
saying.
No,
Let's
no, your
go.
switch starts drifting.
So right at this moment, Centauri rolls up in his nondescript space car.
Yes.
Now this was before Back to the Future.
Right. No, a year
So
before.
this seeded Back to the Future had a DeLorean just like this.
Right.
designers.
So this wasn't copying that.
No.
That was
no,
copying
no.
this.
I was only joking about the fact that it looked just like a DeLorean.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it was
Right.
also
I
made
think it was a
stainless steel.
DeLorean.
Was it?
I think it
'Cause the
was.
whole back
it
end.
back.
DeLorean.
Maybe. But it looked
know.
more like Knight Rider inside
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
with the big giant yoke.
And so, can we
Lights.
talk now that he's here? Let's talk about Robert Preston for a second. Is this not the most brilliant piece of casting?
Yes.
Yeah.
In like what out of maybe the 1980s, it's got to be top 5
I expect him to
brilliant
start
casting.
singing.
This part was written for him.
Yeah. Well, you can tell.
Yeah.
Space Flim Flam Man.
It's
Right.
I thought he was going to start singing Trouble. There's trouble. Trouble in Trailer
Starlight
Park
Starbright.
City. Yeah,
Right
there you
here
go.
in
Starlight
Starlight.
Starbright.
But
I
see,
was trying
the
to-
great thing about that character is that you know you're being conned and
Yes.
you still go
love it.
along with it.
because he's so.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just believe him.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Robert. Sure. Buddy.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what happens for me with this movie is I know the special effects aren't up to it, but I don't care. I'm just gonna
Right.
go with it. I'm gonna be
barely
conned.
noticed.
You
So
know?
you're getting in the car because Alex
Yes.
got in that car pretty easily, didn't
Right.
he?
Yeah.
right.
He's like, step into my office, my boy.
Well,
and
I
he's
mean,
like, okay.
It's an example of maybe not always when you're a teenager getting in the car with
That's
strangers is
right.
bad.
What happens actually afterward is basically kidnapping. I mean,
It's true.
Well, this is why you can tell the difference in 1984 and 2024 is that now kids would be like, no.
What's the
Right,
percentage
goodbye.
of
Yeah.
it going bad versus good getting in a stranger's car?
Well, if it's Robert Preston, I think,
50-50.
well, part of it is that if you transport a person on Earth, that could be human trafficking. Depends upon what you're trying to do.
think about
If you
What's the
if you
galactic
transport
dollar?
a person off the Earth,
Yeah.
that is definitely human trafficking.
Rob, I didn't.
No,
He's
well,
a human trafficker. I didn't even realize it.
He's a human trafficker. He's picking up a
Probably an
human.
interspecies
That's
trafficker.
insane.
Yes.
Probably not the only alien.
well,
he's
we
picked up.
don't know technically in intergalactic law, humans may not count as anything.
They aren't part of the league.
They're not part of the league. They're sub.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they may
Or
look
just
at us
some-
as just
whatever.
man animals from Battlefield Earth.
So he's basically like collecting exotic species.
right.
Right.
yeah,
He basically came back with a chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could play video games.
Ah?
I found him.
And that's actually kind of an interesting thing when, all of the other starfighters are gathered around and they look at this human walking in, it'd be like having a chimp walk in.
He's got
and
the
you're
gift.
like, yo, come on. You can't have that guy.
They don't even know anything yet.
this is the chimp that wrote Shakespeare on the typewriter.
That's right.
He's got the
That's
gift.
right. I found him.
I found him
I
right
did it.
here.
Can I say though?
Yes.
So he gets him in the car.
Yeah.
You might be getting to this, but he
No,
just
go ahead.
starts just booking it.
300
First he
miles.
shocks him
300
with
miles an hour.
3 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and the cops didn't mention. Which this is for a later episode, but
Yeah.
the cops didn't mention that somebody's flying a jet around.
That's the next
That's
episode.
next. Keep listening. But he's talking to Alex like Alex plays video games. He's just like, hey, this is Centauri, and I know what I'm doing. Looking back, they're driving through a tunnel. This car's going 303 miles an hour. You're in the wall if you look back.
It's space magic driving car.
He's got an autopilot.
Well, and then when his
game.
car takes off, literally, my wife said, "Why is his car just a drawing now?" And my son said,
Has to be.
And my son said, "Did he fall asleep at the game and he's dreaming this?"
Oh, that's
jumped into PS1.
It could have totally become that if they wanted.
I know,
generous.
and my realization was, so Tron came out in '82,
Right.
and had basically the same level of CGI.
Yeah.
Tron and this were the first two movies that worked that used CGI
Yes.
for most of their special effects.
Yeah.
And it worked in Tron because you're still inside of a computer.
Did it work in Tron?
but at least the setting was you're inside a computer.
Right, but
I
here,
never understood that part of Tron.
But
But
turned
here,
into a cartoon.
it's sort of like, you're like, is this reality or is he having a dream?
I did think
right.
It's
Well,
like,
I guess-
okay, so once you get outside of Earth's atmosphere,
Yeah.
everything becomes drawn,
Yeah.
and it's a cartoon rather than a real.
I'll say this is one thing I credited the movie with is that it was very I've been trying to think of this word since I saw the movie and I can't think of it. But it was very
awesome.
just
Magical.
like it was a very big leap for him to say we're going to go with all electronic,
yes.
Yes.
CGI
Yeah.
at the time. And so
Ballsy.
Well, they had
it's
to pick.
admirable, right?
Right.
It's like we're going to go with that. It didn't really work like looking back, but I was willing to overlook that when I watched
I
the
was
movie.
too, and actually, as a kid, I was like, okay, it's not perfect, but it's something.
Right.
Don't shit on it,
Well,
please.
well, that's the thing, and they had two choices. Either they're going to go practical and miniatures like Lucas did, and usually when people do that, they don't light it the right way, and it looks too
tiny.
and bad.
Right.
Lucas figured out the secret sauce of how to light it in such a way that it looks realistic.
Right.
Or you go fully digital. In the early '80s, I mean, I just looked at this stuff and I'm like, what did they just have like 10 Apple 84s like daisy chained together?
Right.
Rendering?
It wasn't even that. It was
Right.
something called a Cray something.
Yeah, it was the Cray.
Crayola?
It was the Cray.
Crayola.
I have it here actually. It was the Cray XMP supercomputer.
Seriously.
Okay,
It
it took
wasn't
up a
even
whole
like
room.
stuff we knew.
It still took them months to render single sequences.
Right.
Oh wow.
This is the specs on it. It had 128 megabytes RAM memory. Okay.
That's a lot for back then.
Yeah.
A lot for it. Well, considering that the Apple 84 had 1 megabyte
Yeah.
RAM
No, that's
memory,
like,
it's a lot.
massive.
Okay.
Back then.
And 38 gigs of storage space on
That would have been
Gigs?
huge back
dude.
then.
That would've been
would've
like 5 city
massive.
blocks.
Yeah.
There's a big go online on Wikipedia. There's a picture of the thing. It's humongous. Okay.
And people are punching cards like crazy.
And that's what,
shoving them
that's what they were rendering this thing on. Okay, I looked it up because I thought they just, like I said, daisy chained a bunch of Apple 84s
Right.
together and figured
Run
it out.
them in series.
Did you guys ever hear of the road? It's called the Road to Point Reyes. You guys ever heard of that?
No. Sounds
So,
like it should be on this podcast.
Lucasfilm. I'll make this short. I think it's interesting because this is 1983. This is the year this was shot. Okay. In 1983, Lucasfilm was the first one to fully render. It was a single image, and it was a road through a countryside with shading and lighting and reflections in water and everything. It was the first, and it was a single image.
Wow.
Took a month to render the single image. It's now like in a museum. It's like the first computer generated, like, I don't know. They call it a single frame movie is what Lucas called it.
Okay.
Is that
And that was this.
only Lucas could say that?
That was
called a
1983. That's just what they call it. It's called a picture. Okay,
It's like, I'm
just
George
telling you what I
Lucas.
read.
It's a
George,
freaking
come on.
movie.
But the
All
point
right,
that
George.
it took a month to render a single image in
that's-
1983. I'm amazed what this movie pulled off.
I'd like
Right.
to
Yeah.
look at that picture if it's any good. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, we have to look at
Well,
it.
and see, that's part of it is I was willing to suspend disbelief and say, okay, it's not perfect, but it's something. And my wife and my son watching this, because I remembered really loving it. And then I'm watching it, and I literally turned to them at one point and I said, okay, so maybe it's not a good movie after all. But and then I watched it the next day and they were in the other room and it's like, God damn it, this is a good
It
movie.
is. Look,
It's good when you're not here.
One of the things that's interesting, like,
With all the doubters, with all the naysayers.
here's the truth of this movie, though. Like, if you don't have them make this movie, this probably is overstatement, but this is a precursor to the digital revolution.
Oh, for sure.
For
And
sure.
I remember I was reading reviews,
Yeah.
and some guys, like, if you look at the people who did this, they go on to become the magicians of
Toy Story and
digital
all that kind of
film.
stuff.
And
So-
actually, when you look at Toy Story, there was a version of it that came out on DVD that had like a short of a baby that was one of the first times that they tried to do this technology. And the baby is deep in the uncanny valley.
Does it look like
when
Alex
you watch
is
this baby, it is the grossest,
turning
most
into,
terrifying thing. It's this short of this baby like trying to get his pacifier, and there's like slobber coming out.
Yeah.
This digital slobber.
It's just nightmare
And you're
fuel.
like, it's horrifying.
Yeah.
And
Like this
somebody
belongs
worked
on the dark
really
web.
hard. Yeah, somebody worked really hard on this.
Yeah.
And they even put it on a DVD because it's like, hey, let's share that baby thing. But somebody has to do. You have to crawl
Yes.
before you can walk.
Oh,
Kill
good-
it.
good
Kill it with
segue.
fire.
All
I
right.
think, though, as I look back as a kid,
Yeah.
I think the reason I didn't like this movie as much as others, though, was I probably would feel this way now, is if they had been able to pull off more of the miniatures and more realistic look, because you had Star Wars and you had 2 Star Wars.
Right.
By then.
We had 3 by the time this came out. I mean,
So,
84 was the
You
same year
have
as the last one.
Yeah.
I think the thing that Star Wars also captured was the lived-in universe.
Yes.
Everything was dirty
Yeah.
and lived
Right.
in
And so this
broken.
felt so
Right.
like
Here, the trailer court isn't even lived in.
no,
Right.
yeah. So I think
Those
for
trailers
me,
were brand new. Every one
I
of
think
them.
this movie would hold. I mean, this movie holds up pretty well,
Yeah.
honestly. But I think it would have held up better. I think I would have liked it more if it was more like,
I got you.
because I wasn't a computer kid necessarily, and so I do think that I appreciate what they did.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think if they had made it more like Star Wars,
I think that it's basically like if you are watching The Magician and you can see what he's actually doing, you're sort of sitting side on and you can sort of see, oh, that's how he did it.
Right.
And half of the people watching that would be like, oh, that's how he did it.
Yeah.
And the other half, it's like, oh, that's how he did it. I mean, you can
Right.
see it
Yeah.
and appreciate it,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't fool you.
I got you.
But you can also see it and think, oh, come on. That's just obvious. That's a trick.
Right.
Well, let's jump back in. So Centauri pulls up. We forgot to mention he's got this other guy in the back seat with him.
Yes.
Alex sits in the office. Shakes hands with the beta, and it shocks him, and he immediately gets out of. As a kid, it was pretty creepy. Okay,
Right.
what was happening? Guy gets out of the car. We don't know who that was yet. Centauri takes off. Well, first he's like, "What do you think, my boy? You interested?" And all he has to do is go, "Yeah," and then like the door is shut.
That's consent
That's consent
right there. Right.
And off
He said,
they
"Yes,
go.
officer."
And I don't know why he didn't just fly away
He was
immediately.
just waiting for the
I'm
candy.
pretty
That's
sure-
why he was so hesitant. Like, am I going to get candy out of this?
I'm pretty sure the tunnel was the same tunnel in Back to the Future.
Was it? Maybe.
I'm pretty positive.
Could be.
Maybe.
Actually.
So they eventually they're flying through space to get to Rylos, okay? And I will say from an acting standpoint, I really liked most of what Lance Guest did, but he really undersold the fact that he was flying through space
yeah.
for the first time.
My wife
The
said
only
that
thing he
too.
did was just kind of lean forward and look at
Yeah.
Centauri, and he's like,
yeah,
okay, and I'll just look out the window for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's like, he's awful calm for just blasting
That's-
into space in a
that's
stranger's
what my-
car. Like, what the heck, man?
That's what my wife said as well. But
Yeah.
I think my reaction was, when I was an 18-year-old kid, it was like, I'm flying in space.
Yeah.
So I would have thought his reaction should have been, whoa, this is great.
Yeah, he didn't have to be scared,
right.
but
Yeah.
something.
But I
Something,
think
yeah.
the reaction also ought to be, what
right.
the
It
hell
was like
is
he was on
this?
his way to Walmart or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, well, I wonder how long
Here we
it's
go.
going to take.
Is there a gas station up here? I gotta go to the bathroom.
Eventually, they get to Rylos Station, and I will say the landscape of the planet itself looked
Yeah.
terrible.
Yes. Anytime
Yeah.
you have what's an organic form, it,
Like mechanical stuff, it did pretty good for the time.
Right.
But my goodness, the rock formations and everything that it was in,
They were bad.
But
Yeah.
but they said they could have done better, but they didn't have the time to wait for it to render. Like you're
Right.
talking about months probably to render a decent landscape.
Right.
Right. So again, limitations. But
and we've all played
That's
video
kinda
games
how,
that it's like it's not rendering, but I still want to play this room.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I'm just
It's
gonna
like
wait.
back in dial-up day, and you're like,
Yeah.
I can't wait for this picture to come out.
no, it's fine. You get the top third of the picture, and you're like, that's fine. All right. So you get to Rylos, you're a human person, and you get over like, oh my gosh, I'm going to see aliens for the first time. And what do the aliens from Rylos look like? Like people.
Well, they
No,
look,
they had
look
cool
like
hair and baldness.
yeah, they look
Oh,
like
they had the bulbous head.
the women and the men all had that bald
Male
head
pattern
with
baldness.
the male pattern baldness with
horseshoe.
the
If
I
horseshoe.
was given.
Yeah, they all look like 60-year-old accountants or Mr. Burns. They look like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons.
Right.
They did look like Mr.
Even the women.
Yeah.
Right?
Excellent.
And you can tell the first woman that he meets is like an attractive woman, but she still has like got CPA on top. You know what I'm talking about?
Attractive.
Right.
What are you talking
So
about?
I think
Hot
that
for space chicks.
not to jump ahead too
Rylos
much,
girls.
but if
Settle down,
you know,
girls.
if Maggie were to arrive in Rylos, I think
Yes.
all of the dudes would be like, "Holy cow!"
No, they'd be like, "Oh, she's got too much hair on her head.
know what hairy
Give
these
me
apes
that
are?
Nice bald head."
Somebody calls
That might
Alex
be. That might
when he
be.
sits down with the recruits coming up in a minute here. Somebody says, "Oh, what a disgusting creature!" When you hear him, you overhear
Yeah,
him
they're
say it.
hairy
So
monkey creatures.
I think
They
maybe
would not
Charles
like
is
it.
right. They would not like it.
It'd be
won't.
like,
Yeah.
it'd be like, "Hey, shave your pubes on your head, man." I mean,
Probably what it
who
is.
says That.
Exactly.
What's wrong with these people and their hairy heads?
So Centauri kind of blows him off. I mean, he gets there. He's like, "Have fun, you know, storming the castle or whatever." Like that's like, oh, it's right. Seriously,
it'll work?
Like, good job, good job.
One of the other things that I love about this particular scene is that it's obvious that nobody ever did anything with like a linguist. I mean, like with Star Wars,
Yeah.
they developed fake languages
What, you
for
didn't
the
like the
different
spitting
aliens.
and
You
the
didn't like
making
it?
weird noises?
I know. So it's just like they told the actor, "Okay, speak in an alien language," and each of them just improved
something.
a fake alien language.
Macdo. Macdo.
Blurpity blurp
Yeah,
blurp.
yeah.
What's alien to gesture like this and
Some
not
aliens
like this?
out there
Yeah.
listening to this podcast
Cross
going,
your
they're
I know.
dissing my
Well, they're
language
bouncing
right
this
now.
off a satellite right now, and somebody's
Swearing
getting
in
pissed
alien.
off.
The Omicron Persei 8 is going to come get us here pretty soon. Picking on their language.
All right, so they do have this one random cut. Like they should have just stayed. I don't know why they throw these cutaways in here, or why they chose right now to do it. We've got all this stuff. Alex just got to the space station. They're throwing flight suits at him. He doesn't know what's happening. They're putting him down a conveyor belt. And it just, for 1 second, it cuts back to the trailer park to watch a miner look at Playboys for a second.
Yeah, that's
well, it's
very
80s, man. You got to have that in
unpleasant.
the 80s.
Right.
Very minor.
A
He's like
10-year-old.
He was
Yeah,
He's
he
10.
was
I
young.
checked his age.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was playing a 10-year-old, but he was a 10-year-old.
Yeah, he was little.
But we don't know what was actually in those.
And he
I
did
don't know.
well. He did the whole hold it
Centerfold.
sideways
Yeah.
Right,
thing,
thing.
so you know what is in it.
Okay, and then there's like this.
He's not reading the article.
Speaking of things
I'm
that were,
pretty sure he liked Norman Mailer.
yeah,
He looked like kind of kid
Lewis
that'd be
liked
into the
Playboy for the articles.
Yes,
You're right.
yes.
I'm sure he did.
Sure, he was looking for July or June or whatever, just because he needed that. Man, I really wanted to read that article on.
That's right.
I actually don't have any clue what kind of article
I don't
they had
know
in those
either.
magazines.
Interviews, maybe.
I just looked at pictures.
And then again, as a scary image, as a 6-year-old, you get this half-cooked robot underneath the cover.
Yeah.
That's
That
just
was
getting,
freaky.
My wife was
When
like,
you're a
"What
child
was
now."
that?"
Yeah,
That was gross now.
he's like, it looks like he's covered with phlegm that is breathing.
Yeah.
and
Was
he's
that
got
when-
these eyes that.
Yeah.
Are,
that was
yeah.
when he was making all the weird noises too, right?
Yeah, and so Maggie comes in to check on him, and he's like, he's been in bed all day moaning. Nobody sees him, but it's to establish that the beta is now in Alex's place and is still forming. It
Yeah,
does not
the
yet
sounds
look like
he was
Alex.
making were kind of weird.
How many times did she walk into his room and hear him
just-
making those
well,
noises though, and
yeah.
just be like, it's just Alex again.
Yeah.
I can't-
That's a
found
little
one of
weird.
Lewis. It's like a
It
normal
was the
thing for him to
80s.
do.
People were a lot more involved.
I think that if she's already accepted that he plays video games all day,
Yeah.
then having him moan in bed all day is just an
like, what,
Part of
extension.
it. Yeah.
I've actually got lots of choices in this trailer park, guys.
She's got truck guy with the hooter.
Oh yeah, he
Hooter,
seems like
hooter,
a
horn.
catch. He seems like a catch.
You really like that horn.
That horn's awesome. Why is it in a Dodge Ram lifted 4x4?
Having
Charles
all,
is Maggie. If the horn was Starfighter, he would be as into. Yeah, you see how
Yeah.
that works.
having all those kids
Do it
riding
again.
around in a truck, in the back of a truck without seatbelts, without any of this stuff.
Oh, I did that.
Getting drunk and throwing up all of the
I
time.
didn't do that.
And and he even says, "I'm not going to get drunk and ride around in the truck like all of you losers."
Yeah.
And it's like, that literally is what everyone did in 1984. None of those things
Yeah.
are acceptable now.
I do want to shout out here. So
Well,
we,
a
it
lot of
cuts
kids
back.
Still probably get drunk.
It cuts back to Rylos, and here's Alex, still fish out of water, doesn't know what the heck's going on because no one yet, besides Centauri, has been able to speak English to him. And I'm going to give a shout out for these extras. Just all these guys, and they had to be given these directions, all these balding alien people just walking around in the scene. There's a big, huge set, and they're just got these tablets. They got all the stuff that you just know doesn't do anything. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, nice tablet. Here's my tablet. They got flashing lights. They're pressing like their buttons. They're turning knobs that don't turn. They're just a sea of people doing things that are meaningless.
Yes.
Right.
And I'm like,
was convinced.
I love it. Every time I see these extras just fully,
Yes.
oh, yes, this is my panel and I'm working on this panel right here.
Right.
And this is important work that I'm doing. I don't know why I get such a kick out of it, but I know.
You know, and part of it is funny because you could see they have all these aliens that are lined up that are going to be the starfighters.
Yes.
And if your head is small enough, you have a helmet. But if you have this big, giant, octopus
head,
head, no helmet for you.
Well, the helmet wasn't sealed, so like the director even admitted it was kind of dumb because it wouldn't have done anything for them.
no airlock at all.
And they never actually put it down except for like one scene in the movie.
So
And then it was all
Yeah.
yeah.
Wet.
And so finally, they clip this translator onto the collar of Alex's
Which
shirt.
was just the inside of a digital watch.
Was that what that was?
what it was.
Okay, it works.
It works.
And then all of a
Battlefish?
sudden,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, you speak English?" Like, no,
Hey.
you hear English because your translator is translating everything. And to me, because I'm annoying this way, I'm like, their mouth should not be
right.
looking like what they're saying. Then,
right.
right? Why not just dub them over? Have them say gibberish,
Look,
and then dub
that would've
It's
them.
been
highly
cool.
advanced technology.
I understand
It
that.
makes their mouth look right.
It even makes their mouth
Yes.
render into English
Yes,
as well.
it
That's
does.
amazing.
It's amazing.
All right, so he joins the other recruits we mentioned. There's like this middle area where there's about maybe only 12 guys. Well, I'd say guys, aliens in flight suits.
Seriously,
maybe
yeah.
15.
Well, and some of them just have like a black black mask.
yeah.
Right.
Because it's like, well, I guess we don't have
Well-
the mask didn't come in, so just sit there
Well,
with
that was
pantyhose
what,
on your head.
Yeah.
Find out
because we don't.
Centauri looks kind of like that. Centauri
Yeah.
looks kind of like that.
Well, not only,
He takes
but
his face off.
where are all the starfighters?
That's all they got, dude. They
That's
only
it.
needed one.
But there's
I don't
not-
want to give anything away,
But there's not current starfighters.
They
They're
were
all
all there.
recruits.
They're all dead.
Where were the existing starfighters?
That's
what I'm saying.
Questions.
There's just like,
died.
oh, these are all the new guys. But then when, in a second, spoiler alert, the base gets blown up, they're like, there's none left. Like, these 12 newbies were all of the starfighters?
Yeah.
Empire blew them away, man.
Yeah.
Must have been,
That's
yeah.
what happened. So
Xur
Empire
is a
struck back.
tough
right.
cookie to crack.
Anyway, Alex sits
Across
down.
the frontier.
Alex sits down, and then the vagina alien tells him, don't step on the octopus ones.
Wait,
Right.
was it a vagina alien?
That looked like a vagina with a face. I'm sorry. The one that talked to him.
My wife was concerned about how much penis talk was in desert, so I guess it's fair we talk about some vaginas.
There, I put a disclaimer on the Desert Heat episode that there's just a lot of talking about that because what the heck else are we supposed to talk about in Desert Heat?
Well,
I cut out 20 minutes of penis talk out of Desert Heat. He'll
Whoa.
tell you.
Yeah.
It seemed to me that the most prominent feature of all of the aliens was the eyes.
Yes.
Anytime that there was an alien, it had weird eyes. In fact, there was one alien later on
Yeah.
that gets shot and his helmet comes off, and then he's got eyes that
I
are
actually liked
sticking
that.
out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They, like,
So
sort of
I didn't
speak-
even actually notice any vajayjay on this alien's face. I just saw the eyes that were bugged out.
I literally
I gotta
thought
say-
it, and then my wife said it, and so we both thought the same
Oh,
thing.
I wasted
Oh, really?
48 hours in my room. I got to go back and find it. Can I just say, I really like their makeup effects. I thought they were great. Like
Oh, good.
that bulbous face of a beta guy and
Oh,
all
for
these
sure.
aliens. I mean, they were fun. They were.
There was.
I appreciate that art.
Not to get too far afield, but there was when they were doing the cantina scene in the original Star Wars.
Yeah.
Lucas was mad because he felt like he just didn't have enough aliens, and so he literally told all the guys, "Hey, if you've ever designed an alien, just bring it in. We're just going to put them all in."
Yeah.
Which is why all of the aliens in the cantina, none of them are from the same universe. They're all kind of weird.
Yeah.
And you see just, a half a second of this one and half a,
Yeah.
And it's because basically it was like a convention where all these people
God.
who had developed these different things
That's
for different
awesome.
movies that hadn't been used.
Yeah.
They just brought them all in.
That's awesome.
And so that's part of the reason that scene is so fun is it just feels like this complete menagerie.
Right.
And I here the aliens are pretty good, but you do feel like, hey, we got a budget. We're going to go this far.
Yeah.
We're going to have one vagina with some eyes. We're going to have a squid guy. And then the rest is just going to be pantyhose. I'm sorry, guys.
Right. That's what we got.
We spent the money on the CGI. So,
That vagina cost a lot.
We're
to
still
make.
rendering. So the leader of Rylos stands up at the balcony of this command center. He starts to give this speech about, we're at war because Xur and the Kodan Armada are going to come in and destroy the frontier. And they start chanting, victory or death.
Right.
Victory
or
and I
death.
love
which
how Alex
escalated
is like,
really quickly.
Alex is like,
it all
victory or
depends
death.
on you.
Well,
Victory or death.
yeah, seriously.
This guy, this guy's talking. I'm assuming it's a pretty important orientation.
Yeah.
And Alex is just like, did I leave my keys in the...
He's like
he's
an
not even
18-year-old
paying
dude. He doesn't
attention.
No,
Like,
he's not. And as soon as they start chanting victory or death, that's when Alex gets this look on his face like,
I'm out of here.
yeah, it's going to be a no for me,
I'm
dog.
done.
Right.
Yeah. I think he even tries
What's
to like
hard pass?
victory or death. He's like, no, I'm good.
This is sort of, when I saw that, I mean, first of all, when he gets abducted, I realized, okay, that's human trafficking. And then in this scene, I thought, okay, this is what radicalization looks like.
Indoctrination.
You get picked up by this dude who says, hey, you're going to be a part of this thing. And the next thing you know, you're shouting victory
Yeah.
or death.
It's like, welcome to Zorg's, Zorg's Resistance Army.
So Alex had the right response, which
Maybe.
is, oh, wait, I'm supposed to blow up the Twin Towers? I don't think that's...
No, I was just going down that road. Maybe Osama bin Laden saw this movie. And he's like, this is how we radicalize people.
Wow.
He used the Last
You know, he was
Starfighter.
really
saying-
into video games and a lot
Every
of porn,
time you come on an
apparently.
episode, this is what it turns into.
Yes.
You're saying that this movie is responsible
Look,
for 9/11.
he would have been the age of this.
All right, I'm gonna
He
move
would have
on
been.
quick.
See, anybody who's watching it would have known
Yeah.
they should
He
have
was
gone the
into video
route of
games back
Alex
then.
Right.
and say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And then when the plan fell apart, then they could be brought in to do
you
it
go.
later on.
Right.
There you go.
He was just looking for a vagina alien again.
Right.
All right, so he runs away essentially from the victor of death, and he runs in. This is where you meet Greg for the first time, played by Dan O'Harely.
Yeah,
He, by the way,
that was good.
as soon as I saw him again, because when I saw him in the first time I saw it in 1984, I thought, I really like him. And
Yeah.
he's
Greg becomes his like co-pilot.
he's a veteran actor, and
Yeah.
he's got this full-on makeup and with the prosthetics
Prosthetic,
and everything.
Yeah.
But he immediately he's a character, and you get him, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, that's some excellent acting.
No, for the fact that he and I think Melissa said this in the stuff that she sent in, the fact that he was able to act through the
Yes.
prosthetics
And apparently it was not a very expressive prosthetic.
No.
Prosthetic.
is really
Yeah,
impressive
you
on
could
his
kind of
part.
tell you'd see
Yeah,
it
it was
pulling.
really hard.
And those were the two veterans, right? You had Robert Preston and this guy.
Right. And Robert
Screen
Preston was
veterans.
playing the guy he always played.
Yes.
Right, so maybe not
So-
as impressive.
So this guy was he decided, okay, here's how I'm going to make my mark in this film. And he does. He immediately does.
But look, we have to talk about this, okay? Because we'll just do it now since we just introduced him. Greg looks like a penis. I have to just say it right now.
Well, he has the
well, that's what I'm
turtle,
saying, dude.
but okay.
What does
He looks like a.
he looks like a lizard penis.
Like a
I mean, it's
turtle
not
penis.
He's a turtle penis.
Penis.
Right.
He's an asthmatic penis.
I wonder if he's circumcised.
He looks like a giant turtle wiener. I'm not trying to be
Does
crass,
not-
but
I've never seen a turtle.
his head.
Maybe he
I never
does.
thought-
I'm
First
not
of all,
Googling
neither
that,
have I. I
though.
don't want to know.
Did you
okay?
know?
Don't.
I think I'm going to search that one on incognito mode.
Did they not?
I have a story to tell you on the Patreon.
I don't understand how you can't look at Greg and not immediately think.
No, he didn't
penis.
look like that. He looked like a
I think,
scaly guy.
There was something going on in your house
top of his head,
when your
dude.
wife and you were like, hey, that looks like a vagina to me. This other alien
yeah,
looks like a
seriously.
penis.
James,
And then
it
you look over
occurs
and you
to
say,
me.
You guys
hey, baby.
need to get it on
You know,
or something. You
that
need to take your glasses
Desert
off.
heat.
Put the glasses on, Charles.
Desert heat.
I think the chemistry between the two leads was getting to you and your wife.
It is,
like, you
this is
know-
not something I imagined. He looks like a giant turtle penis. I'm sorry.
How is this the second episode that you seem to be
about
wanting to
that.
talk a lot about penises, James?
I didn't. That wasn't me on the other one.
Well, again, it shows you what a good actor he is. 'Cause if I
He
had
acts
to
through the
wear an
penis.
outfit that I look like that, and yet still people would say, he's really good.
Are you guys being? Are you
This
guys
guy
being
really got
serious?
hard.
Are you guys being serious right now?
No,
did not
I
think he looked
saw
like a
it.
penis.
You saw it.
I saw it, but I looked past it because I thought his performance
No,
was so
I
good.
looked past it. I didn't ruin the
didn't-
performance for him, but I just wanted to get this out of the way so we could just focus on his performance from here.
Right, but I
very
mean, like,
interesting,
I
James.
have
Tell
not
us more.
seen Sausage Party because of the name of the film, Sausage
Oh, apparently
Party.
it is about penises.
I know. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I don't want to see that. And so if that occurred to me, I was like, okay, I'm going to ignore that
Yeah.
and I'm going to move on
It
to.
didn't occur to me, actually.
It did.
It didn't to me either.
No.
yeah.
Ryan, help me out over here, buddy.
Yeah, he was an asthmatic penis.
Thanks you.
Hey, you're a kid. Zip it.
Give it up for Ryan. Nice job,
Did they
buddy.
not have Walgreens in this freaking
All right,
universe?
that's enough. Don't, you
All
don't
right,
now you get to
sorry.
just talk all you want over there at
Yes.
the kids' table. No,
I
passed.
did not think he looked like that. He was not phallic at all.
All right, fine.
He was lizard.
I'll leave it to the people to decide. And
Well,
we'll
you know,
see
and
thought about that.
If it is true that this is sort of young nerd wish fulfillment, to have your best friend turn out to be a giant penis is not really what any young man is thinking, well, that would be
mean,
what I would like.
Think about what
Man.
that says about him being your wingman.
A lot of young men's
Right.
best friend is their penis.
You
Let's
don't-
just
She's going to be
honest, so.
disappointed.
All I'm saying
That is true.
They
But
could have
you
made
don't want
him.
him as a wingman. You don't want to go to a bar with a giant penis next to you and say, "Hey, baby, what are you doing?" And she's like, I'd like to talk to your friend.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
want that.
No, you don't. Okay, look.
Oh, what
Would you like-
what are you showing? Oh, I don't.
Hey,
wanna
you
know,
see my
do
buddy
I?
over here? How
Oh,
would
is
you
that
like to
Greg?
see
was
about
Greg.
3 inches worth of that?
All right, let's move. In the interest of time, let's move on.
Okay.
All right.
How
So
we get on this subject again? Let's
he
get
goes
back
on.
to
He turns
vagina
on to Greg.
aliens.
Greg is also furiously turning knobs that don't move, and he's working on stuff.
Right.
Science. He's beep booping the science panels and whatever. And Alex confides in Greg, "Hey, I'm not supposed to be here," and he goes, "Oh, you're from Earth, which isn't even part of the league. They're not allowed to recruit people from Earth. What the heck happened?" "Oh, Centauri, well, yada," and goes
That
and
rascal.
they march right off and find Centauri and confront him and saying, "What are you doing recruiting people from Earth? You're not allowed
These
to do
are
that."
monkeys, man.
Right.
And he basically
goes,
fires Centauri, who
Yeah.
then he almost loses his money, and he grabs his money
Yeah.
is the first thing, because that's all he cares about.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money.
But he goes straight into sales mode, right? What are you talking about? You might have thought it was a game, but it was also a test that
Right.
you passed, and he's got the
Excalibur
goods and the
test.
gifts.
Right.
He goes right into
Yeah,
it, just like
He's basically like, I realized at this moment that he was basically like a cross between Obi-Wan and Han Solo. Because he's both the wise man that gets you into this whole universe, and he's also the grifter that's trying to just make a buck, off of the whole thing.
And it's interesting that he called it. He goes, "So I heard you're up to your old Excalibur tests again."
That's
and
right.
As a way of
something.
the sword and the stone,
Yeah.
where you would pull it out, and that was the chosen one. And that's
The
interesting.
director
way to
said
think
that
about
was part of it. Actually,
That's it.
He
See,
said that was intentional. He said, "What this? If I was a video game kid,
Right.
I would want
It's a
to
test
have
to find out the right people for the job.
yeah.
There's a lot of
Awesome.
research going on this episode.
yeah."
All right, you're right. We don't let me do any
He's
research
mad.
here. So, right at this point, Zur, the main bad guy, FaceTimes the whole room. Okay, like
Which, by the way,
Giant head.
as bad as it is to be on a Zoom call when you're yelling at people and you're just one face among 16,
Right.
to have your whole face,
Face on there.
3D,
Gotta have
around
confidence.
the whole room. It's
bad.
like,
I mean, it
that's
wasn't
not-
HD, so you're not going to see all the
No.
images.
Yeah.
But this dude, okay, this is where the first time we meet Zur, and basically we find out that Zur is the son of the leader
Yeah,
of
I thought
Rylos.
immediately father-son conflicts
Right.
never turn out well.
And he just comes off as like this spoiled country club kid who's like mad at his dad because he
That's all
wouldn't
he
give him the
is.
keys to the Beamer. And so now he's going to start
No,
an
no, no. In
intergalactic
his
war
case,
over the whole thing.
It's the key to the scepter.
Right.
Whatever. I'm just
With the
saying,
giant
like, that
spear
he
in
just
the
struck
middle
me
of
as like Veruca Salt of
Yes,
bad guys.
yes.
Is
Yes.
basically the way I want my scepter now.
Which is pretty much what he
Right.
was. Yeah, he wasn't.
He was very hateable, which was his whole job.
Yes.
He did a good job with being that. Yeah.
but just in the most whiny, spoiled kind of way, which was probably intentional. so
and
I'll
he
give
could
him credit
also
for
melt
that.
people's heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just melt. Oh, I caught your spy. They melt this guy's
Yeah.
brain right in front of
Apparently that was
everybody,
far
and
more
then
gruesome.
it smash cuts to Centauri. Still want to leave?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
And then
You
the
know,
next thing you see is the
That's a great line. I like that.
the ship flying away.
Yeah. I like that
Immediately.
line.
You don't
I
have to
laughed
have the
at that.
dialogue that answers that question.
I laughed at it. That was a great
Yeah.
line.
So, especially after he basically, Zur says on his FaceTime call, "I'm coming to kill all of you. We will break through the frontier soon. I killed your spy." And Alex says, "I am out of here." Okay.
Right.
I'm not even supposed to be here. Get this monkey out of here.
So then we cut into the
I'm a man animal.
bad guy's ship on the bridge where Zur was making his call from, and we
Yes.
kind of see him for the first time with these other two aliens who, I know you guys didn't like how I described Greg, but I can only really describe those guys as like sentient pieces of crap. I mean, essentially what they
Yeah.
look like.
They had that kind of rough edge, like they'd
Yes.
gone
I was-
through a sphincter of
That's
some
what I'm
sort.
saying. They look
Yeah.
like giant poo aliens.
I was thinking more like petrified rock.
Or Play-Doh.
Oh, they didn't look. They're too squishy for rocks.
Okay.
Like, they didn't look like you could just roll up and go.
They look quite a bit like the
quite.
guys on Galaxy Quest, actually.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but he had the cool
He had the cool flip
Yeah, I
monocle.
did flip
Yeah.
monocle. That was cool.
Was great, and I love how within 5 seconds one of them turns to the other talking about Zur, like how long we got to endure this
Seriously,
idiot.
they're like, this guy.
You ready to kill this guy or
Well,
what?
and the
Joke.
one guy gives the order to go ahead with the attack.
Fire the asteroid gun.
And then he's like, "No,
Yes, this was
I'm the one who
hilarious.
gets to. I'm the emperor."
I'm the one
And
who
then-
gives
and then
the
he
order.
says,
Man.
Yeah.
"So fire the asteroid."
Yes, yes. I thought that was so
How
funny,
dare you
too.
say to fire? I'm the one that knows about the frontier. I am the one that is the leader.
was so
So I'm
funny.
the one who will say when it's time to fire.
Good.
So it's time to fuck.
So good. Yeah.
You went over my helmet?
That was
So now, no, for sure.
That was a good time.
Yeah. See, that's one of the things I like about this film is that it does have a sense of humor about itself. It is playing it seriously, but it's also, there's a little bit of tongue in cheek. And it's not, sometimes you can get into danger if the film thinks it's funnier than you think it is.
Right.
Yes.
That gets really tedious.
For sure.
But if it, is funny and you laugh along, then you think, okay, well, that's good.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
The thing that's not funny is these asteroid guns end up killing everybody. Not everybody, but it blows basically the Rilo station in half, and lots of people die.
But you forgot about the futuristic C4 explosives that.
Well, there is a spy within the
blows
base.
up the
he puts
defensive
on the-
guns.
yep.
The outside guns that were shooting these asteroids before they could get in are disabled from within with a spy.
Yes.
And that's how it gets
My
blown apart.
17-year-old son said, "Oh, they have C4 in the."
That's what I was wondering. I was like,
Space or whatever.
why do they have C4? Like,
See, and here's one of the things. So all of those people that you
All the starfighters are dead.
and all those people that you've lauded for walking around and poking buttons that don't do anything and looking at tablets that don't do anything. And, they had the payoff day where it's like, okay, this is the explosion day.
Yeah.
And they're all like, okay, good. So when I shout, boom, everybody jump up and be as dramatic as possible. Fly it if
It's
you
so
can.
good.
Go over the tops.
Yeah.
Well, they're
Just jump
just
the railing.
channeling their Star Trek right there.
yeah.
Yeah. So that would be like a huge party. And then
that'd be the best.
after it's okay, everybody reset. We're gonna do it again. They're like, yes.
That's the fun day at work, for sure.
And it was not great computer graphics.
I was work, honey. It was great. I got blown
No,
up.
they killed all the so all the starfighters died, but they get this transmission to the bridge of the enemy ship is like, our intelligence tells us that one starfighter has escaped. He's like, escaped, and he puts the sword out the end of his scepter, and I think he's compensating for something with this thing. I'm not to bring it back
there's
around
small dick
to
energy going on
his
there.
tiny Rylonian wee, but
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's what's happening with this guy and his giant scepter.
Well, when you work with a bunch of pieces of crap, I mean,
All right, so we're back on Earth for a minute. They're back home. Centauri's car has broken down on the road. He's underneath it fixing.
Gives him a great
He
speech.
won't even talk. I mean, even on their way down, he's like, "This spoiled brat. I can't believe him. Drag him all the way up here, and then he doesn't want to be a starfighter."
Alex, you're walking away. I can't. Actually, someone who has the voice should do this.
Yeah, well, he
You're
says
walking away from history. Did Chris Columbus say he wanted to stay home? No.
that's right.
What if the Wright brothers thought that only birds should fly? And did Galoka and the Ulus were too ugly to save?
You think they were too ugly to save?
Who's Galoa?
I don't know. Well, the point is that it's like nothing that Alex would know about, right?
I'm not any of those guys.
Yeah.
I'm a kid from a trailer park. And this is the profound line.
Yeah. If that's what you think, that's all you'll ever be.
Ever be.
Right.
That's right.
Which is profound.
I think, James,
Yeah.
did you believe that line as a kid?
I did.
You're like,
I
I want to
read-
be more than a trailer park
I thought
kid.
that was one of the best delivered
Yes.
right.
pieces in the entire film.
Right. But see, again, here, when I was watching it the first time recently, my son and my wife were there.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said, did Christopher Columbus turn back from discovering the New World? I literally had to turn to my son and say, in 1984, we thought Christopher Columbus was a good guy.
Yeah, that changed
Yes.
a lot.
So, right.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the kinds of little explanations that have to happen.
No,
and
for
then
sure.
they
It's
miss
still
the
kinda
great
true.
line at the end of it because I'm explaining it was acceptable to ride in the back of a truck and throw up all
Yeah.
and think
Gosh.
Christopher Columbus was a good
Now
guy.
that I'm thinking about this, the context that would be missed for the time period for new people would
Yeah.
probably be a lot.
Right.
yeah. I mean, Pluto was a planet.
Yeah, Pluto was still a planet
Well, and you
back
look
then.
at the CGI, and in the context of the day, you're thinking it was a Herculean effort to have this CGI.
Yeah.
Be happy with it. And we're looking back, and we're like, how come he's suddenly driving in a
and it's a
cartoon
picture.
car? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but basically Centauri has this great, and I agree with you, Charles, a heartfelt thing, right? He's when Alex says to him, "I'm not any of those guys. I'm just a kid from a trailer park." He says, "That's what you're going to be then, if that's what you believe."
That's right.
That I
That
think
is
is
the
the first.
soul
He's
of this
seeding.
film.
He's seeding what ultimately will be a flip in a bit here
Right.
for Alex.
Right.
It's the heart of the film.
Right,
It's
'cause
what
Alex
this whole
is-
thing is about.
And the
gonna walk
very
home,
fact that you
yeah.
have this grifter who is the one that speaks this truth.
Yeah.
I think that's great writing.
No, for
and
sure.
it's great acting.
Alex gets back to the trailer park. He tries to talk to Maggie, gets slapped in the face.
Hey, you're
Yeah.
never going to believe this. I just got this now rereading
Yes.
this because watching this scene, I was totally confused.
Yeah.
But she says, I told you, Alex, me and my, how did you put it, strange sexual urges aren't talking to you anymore.
Yeah.
And that strange sexual urge she had was sticking her tongue in his ear.
Yeah, that was it.
I
That
didn't
she
get
had
that.
tried. She had tried to make out
What's up with people
his ear.
sticking tongues in ears?
Well,
Yeah,
I-
but
with
see,
his ear.
that's a funny image of this beta.
Yes.
She sticks the tongue in, and he's like, "Get away from me with your strange sexual urges." And she's like, what is happening
she
in my
gets
life?
mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Alex doesn't understand why she's mad. Goes back into his room, gets into bed, and the beta. This is the first time we see the beta actually looks like Alex.
Right.
Right.
Is in the room
I
in the
love
bed.
This is great.
And they walk and they wake up and he's talking to. He's like, "Wait, you look like me." He's like, "Of course, I'm a beta unit. I'm supposed to be taking your spot down here so nobody thinks that you're
This is
gone
another great line.
while you're up there.
Trying to convince him to go back.
While you're up there, yeah." So he says
says-
to him, he goes, "Are you gonna do it?"
What? Let go. You do it.
Okay. He says, "What are you doing back?" He's like, "What are you kidding me? It's war up there." He's like, "Oh, I get it. Save the whales, but not the
Awesome
universe." Huh?
line. That's exactly what I was going. I love that. Save the whales. Nothing more 1980. In fact, Star Trek 4.
Yes.
Whales. Transparent
Yeah.
aluminum.
So what would it be now? Like fight for climate change, but not the universe,
Yeah,
right? I mean, that's
right.
essentially
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
would be if
Save
it was
the whales, yeah.
2023.
Did we save the
It'd be
whales?
whatever we'd be trying to
Did we
save the
accomplish that?
world.
I hope we accomplished
was the
it.
turtle-
We basically
the
did.
turtles
I
for a
mean,
while.
the whales were almost extinct
They were.
at the beginning of the 70s, and then there was an album that came out. There was the Song of the Whales, and that's what launched
Good for us humans.
everybody deciding, hey, let's not kill these things.
Us man animals
Right.
did something good for the whales.
But I do like the point that the beta is making is that
Yes.
that many people have, the causes to save the
right,
planet,
right.
But here's Alex's chance to save the universe, and he's like,
I
"No,
mean,
no,
that's
thank
some
you."
that's some true like speaking truth to virtue signaling right there.
Well, and the other
You're
thing,
just going to virtue signal. You're going to actually do something
Yeah.
about.
right? The other thing that I thought was really good about this is that it's really hard to act opposite yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
You can't see yourself. You don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
And he's a snarky teenager giving snark to another snarky teenager that's him.
Yeah.
And it completely reads. I mean, you feel like, well, that is the beta, and he's
Beta Alex
Handing it to
actor
ya.
was much better than Alex.
It was the same actor.
Beta Alex was
better,
far
though.
superior.
but see having the beta, that again was just a brilliant little plot point.
It's another piece of originality.
Right.
Yes,
Compared
which
to
I
others,
understood they added quite a few, or at least a few more scenes after they tested it because
Those
people
scenes
liked those
tested so
scenes
well, so they
Yeah.
put
Which
a bunch
is
of
true.
extra
They were
ones
really
in.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Lewis wakes up, and again, for a 10-year-old, it's kind of funny. Go, what the shit?
Go back to
And
bed,
then
Lewis.
both
You're
of
just
them,
dreaming.
the beta and the Alex, simultaneously say,
Yeah.
"Go back to bed, or I'm telling mom about your Playboy."
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was funny.
and then he goes back to bed. You know,
Right. But he actually sees the beta doing robot-y things a few times
Yes.
and ends up being
Yes.
told to shut up or go away or go back to sleep or having a nightmare
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just, every time he's like, okay. And that's it. I mean, Lewis could have blown him out of the water many, many times. But regardless, Alex, I got to separate between him and the beta. Alex, the real Alex, walks out saying, you're going back to Centauri right now. And he goes out and he starts tapping the little communicator that Centauri gave him before he left.
Right.
If you change your mind, tap this thing, I'll come back. So he's out there tapping it, not because he wants to go back, but because he wants Centauri to come pick up this beta and get the
Get
beta
him
out
outta
of here, right?
right.
Right.
Meanwhile,
Causing trouble with
intergalactic,
my cute girlfriend.
what's this thing called? A Zandozan.
Yeah, that's
Again with the eyes.
space hunters with the eye. Well,
Guys,
they wear-
below the
they're
mouth.
like-
The mouth is higher than the eyeballs.
They have like skin covering first of like a human. They're wearing
Yeah.
like human suits first. And
It's
then-
like an intergalactic
Yeah.
bounty hunter.
yeah, his face was
Ugh.
his mouth was up here.
Disgust. Again, as a kid,
That was scary.
terrifying.
Right.
As a child,
They
okay.
start gunfight.
And so he's there. Zur has now sent bounty hunters to kill, because again, he got that transmission that one starfighter got away.
Right.
And so this is what ends up actually pushing Alex to go back on the mission. That's
right.
Because when Centauri does show up and is able to at least initially shoot the arm off of this thing, and
Doesn't kill him though.
doesn't kill him, but shoots the arm
like
off of him.
the-
He basically says to him, there's going to be 10 of these guys.
I
in that,
love the
like, in a
beta's
week, right?
response. He's like, "Wait, what? They're coming after
The
him."
point is, like, the beta is like, let him come after the beta while
It's
you're
like-
up here. And it's
It's like, wait a minute.
target practice.
Did I
That's what
sign
I.
up for this?
Yeah, exactly.
Why'd you make me sentient so that I understand fear and
And so
pain?
once Alex understands that this is never going to stop, these people are going to keep coming. Now his
like,
home, his town is in peril. All these things.
go.
Yeah.
Now he's like, I have to go. Right. I got to make a decision here.
Right.
And it is worth fighting for. And the beta says, good luck, Alex. I'll try not to destroy every one of your relationships while you're gone. And off he goes back with Centauri, who actually gets shot himself because the disembodied arm that still has the gun in it
Yeah.
is able to just pick itself up and
That's
shoot
why they're the world's greatest hunters, bounty hunters,
Yeah.
killers.
and shoots him right in the gut
Yeah,
before
gets
he
a
gets
gut
out.
shot.
So, and this is again a trope. It's also basically what a plot requires. Is that now that your mentor has put you in the position where you have to rise to greatness, the mentor has to disappear some way.
Right.
So you can't have Obi-Wan still there because he'll fight the battle.
Right.
You can't have Gandalf
The
still
director
there
said this
because
is not anything to do with Star Wars.
no, I know, but still, just
talking about
in
storytelling.
terms of plotting,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
like how come the parents always have to
Gandalf
die
died too.
so that
Hey, he's a smart guy.
the young hero can go out and be a young hero? It's because if the parents are still around, they'll fix everything.
Is that why all these young adult stories
It's,
kill off all the parents?
It's almost like you're a writer, Rob.
Murder's Row in young
You
adult
have to
fiction.
get rid of them, and actually, when Conan Doyle was writing novel length Sherlock Holmes, he always had to get rid of Sherlock Holmes in the middle of it because he would solve it
Too early.
It's a short story unless he's gone. So Hound of the Baskervilles, he disappears, and you've got Watson fumbling around for like 150 pages because he's not going to solve it, and then Holmes comes back at the end and solves it. Well,
15 minutes. Yeah.
you can't leave him there. You can't leave Gandalf there. You can't leave Obi-Wan there. You can't leave any of these guys there because
They're OP.
they're OP.
I got you.
Yep.
All right, so they get back. This is one of my, I don't know why, it's just little things that make me laugh, but they get back to Rylas. Now the station is blown in half. They're pulling the car, Centurion's pulling the car back in. There's boulders falling in. Think the place is still all wobbly. And there's still a dude there with the cones directing traffic. I'm
But
like,
he's almost going to get hit. And he's
how
like,
much is traffic cone guy getting paid?
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing that job anymore after the place
Yeah,
gets
you
blown
could just
in half.
imagine it's like, hey, we got a guy coming in. It's like, what guy? It's the Last Starfighter. He's like, are you kidding? This isn't my life.
Go get the wands, man. They got to navigate the falling boulders.
I've got some buttons I need to push over here. So now I got to do, okay.
That just made me chuckle when I saw that. Alex pulls up with Centauri right as he's dying, and Grig is there. And so essentially Grig and Alex watch Centauri die.
Very touching.
It's kind of a touching moment. They
get
make
the
him
money?
believe that he's now got
Get the
piles of money and
Yeah.
he's rich.
You're going to be rich.
Yeah, right before he passes away, which is a nice
That's
thing.
what I want is money.
It's a nice thing to do.
I kidnapped you and trafficked you for money, and
And now I've had my
kind of
payday.
ruined this movie for me.
Sorry.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, it's like,
All right,
here's
so
the coyote. He's
the
got
fight
in there.
the fight is on, and Alex gets into his flight suit and changes his shirt that had the communicator on it but can still understand Grig for the rest of the movie.
Right.
But we're just gonna
That's
ignore
hard
all
to do.
of
I
that.
can't
Right.
breathe like that. I have enough asthma.
I thought it'd be funny if when they did that, if they'd actually stayed consistent and now he just couldn't understand Grig anymore.
That would've been
and so he had to do the final fight in his flannel. Like
Yeah. Or just like a piece of it, like tucked into his
just
pocket.
like he would play the video game, might have a bag of Cheetos in the cockpit and a Pepsi, and he's in his flannel, and he probably would have performed better because
Yeah.
that's how he was used to playing the game.
True.
Yeah, it'd be like Luke turns off the targeting computer.
Yes.
It's like,
That-
Alex, you took off your suit. I
he
can't
did. He
hear
took the
him.
gloves
I can't
off.
hear him. It's like, you're just going to do this in flannel? Yes.
No, that was something that came to mind though. Was
Yeah.
watching this. I don't know if we're jumping too far ahead.
No, go ahead. I mean, if it's
When he gets into where he's like doing it, I'm like, honestly, I feel like if they could have had him standing up and fighting,
at a console,
he would have been.
take
Yeah,
the helmet
because that's
off.
what he did.
Well, he
That
does take the
chair-
gloves off at one point. He takes the gloves
Yes,
off, but
the gloves,
take the helmet off,
The
take
chair
all that
did,
stuff
yeah,
off.
the chair. I was like, I
That
would
chair
have thrown
seemed
up. if I
way
was in
too
that
clunky.
thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there's no.
I think
So-
it was like a cool gimmick.
And that is a missed opportunity because if he had a hard time meshing with the thing until he just stood up like he was
Yeah.
at the actual console.
Yeah, it would have been a dramatic
And
moment.
then you'd be like, oh.
They did
I
that
get
with
it.
the
it's on,
gloves. They
right?
did
Yeah.
that with the gloves. That's how they did that.
Well, he gets a little. So they get him up into his gun star, and it's just him and Grig, and they basically,
It's a super gun star, though.
it's a super gun star.
Prototype.
He's getting the layout of
got
the
the
cockpit.
death
You know, he's like,
blossom.
yeah, and that's the first thing he does is say, "Don't touch that button.
Don't
That's
touch
the
that one."
death blossom." And what the hell is a death blossom?
That's
It's
intimidating.
It's a vagina alien.
I just feel like they have just like a team of people. What are we going to call this thing? It's
It was a bad
death
team.
Well, you know, and part of it is that it sounded okay because they were like, don't do the death blossom. That's a final resort.
Yeah.
That will be, you know, and then they start saying, okay, when you unleash the DB, you know, once they make it the DB,
yeah.
okay.
It's the Omega 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it gonna
Well,
do?
It's like an awesome blossom,
knows.
except it's not awesome,
Awesome.
and it's got lasers.
You know
and
what I
stuff.
thought
Yeah.
of was the Mandalorian's rocket launcher thing from.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah.
I printed out this dialogue because this is my favorite exchange in the whole movie.
Oh, wow.
Because of how it builds. And so I'll try and do this quick. Alec goes, wait a minute, when did the hangar go up? I told you, when Zur attacked. And where were the starfighters? In the hangar. You mean they're dead? Death is a primitive concept. I prefer to think of them as battling evil in another dimension.
Yes.
In another dimension, how many are left? Including yourself? Yeah. One.
Yeah.
And then they take off. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such a great exchange.
I think so too. But here again is me watching it with my son and my wife. And as soon as he said, I think of them fighting evil in another dimension. And my son is like, in another dimension. And as soon as he says that, I'm like, okay, it's a bad movie. I understand it.
That's not worse.
But I like
than
just
other
how the
lines.
dialogue
That's
gets
great.
louder and louder,
Yeah.
and the scene crescendos
Yeah.
to the
Right.
point where it's like each line
nothing
builds
wrong
on
with
the other
that.
one, and then it caps it off with a perfect one.
Yeah.
Like it's when he
Like-
realizes once they're already blasting off that he is it. Up to this point, yeah, he knew he was rejoining the fight, but he didn't think he was the
Right.
only starfighter
Right.
that
Yes.
was left.
And that's a plot point I'm curious about. Like,
Yeah.
if all those gunfighters had lived, are they like Zur's like hosed?
I think so.
Because one ship.
Well, that's what
I
I'm
don't want
saying.
to give away the ending, but one
Well,
ship
because
like
either it means one of two things: that these are like starfighters are legendary, which is why they were so trying to take all of them out,
Yeah, maybe.
or two, Alex is just that much of a
that
phenom.
dope. He's that gifted.
He's that cracked at
no
Starfighter.
one expected the man animal to come in there and do that. to him.
That's what I'm saying.
He's
What's
the
up? This is my-
Anakin Walker of
Is
Yeah.
the-
Skywalker of
Right.
Starfighters.
So he's either a prodigy or
Well, he did
or-
get the high score in the game.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, and one of the things that, again, my son pointed out is, what a terrible piece of strategy that you take all of your starfighters, put them in one room right when the shield is failing.
Right.
It's like, you're right. I mean, historically,
Well,
we've never been in this
Should we get these guys out of here?
historically, we've never been in a situation where we put like a whole fleet in one harbor on one island
okay, good point,
right
yes.
before.
Not just a whole fleet, the only fleet.
I know. Well, I'm saying historically,
Yeah.
we actually did this.
I appreciate
once.
you
Did
came
we?
back
Yeah,
on
it's
that
called
against your son.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
So we have done
Although-
this before.
It's true, although the aircraft carriers were out, and that saved
that's
us.
true.
That's the thing that saved us. Right.
Which the Last Starfighter, they
that's right.
copied it from World War
See?
II.
Right. So my point is, you're like, this is really stupid. Nobody would ever put all of the guys
In
in one
defense of the
place
movie.
so that they
Alex-
can attack and destroy one place.
Alex
it's like,
rolls
well,
up.
you
He rolls up and he's like, I really wish you guys would ask me about this. We already figured this out back in
40 years ago.
40 years ago.
In their defense, the leader guy looked really, really sad when he knew they were all going to get blowed up.
You know what? It's true.
He was like, oh.
You know what I realized just
Told
now?
me there was something
40 years ago for them was World War II. 40 years ago for us is Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's kind of crazy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the other thing,
talking and it's late at night, but James, you just
I'm sorry.
the other thing to think about is who was the Alex of Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
There was some kid who left.
Yeah.
That
It's
was,
like, I'm not going to be here. And then it's like, you're the only guy left that can fly a plane for us.
Right.
Isn't it Ben Affleck?
Alex
Yeah.
has.
Ben Affleck. It was Ben Affleck.
No, it's Josh Hartnett.
Oh, sorry. Josh Hartnett. I think
Alex
Josh
had no
Hartnett's more
idea that he
attractive, yes.
evaded death by quitting,
Right.
He did.
and we would have been dead.
He
See,
pulled
that
the
is
Green
also
Lantern.
part of the nerd's wish fulfillment, because there were so
I
many
can
times
quit.
that I've quit
Yeah.
things, and if I could make myself feel better by saying I probably evaded death.
That's right.
You know
by
how many
quitting.
things I have accomplished by quitting?
Right.
So his wishy-washiness saved his life.
That's what.
No.
Yes.
Not only his life, saved the
Moral of the story,
universe.
kids, be wishy-washy.
And so after
big
Alex realizes there's
ambivalent.
one, there's another great dialogue exchange when he's now freaking out there's only one, and Greg says to him, he thinks you're dead. Classic military strategy.
Yes.
Surprise attack. It'll be a slaughter. That's the spirit.
Yeah.
Says, no, I'm going to be slaughtered.
Yeah.
So we're bringing in 47 Ronin now.
Yeah.
No, my slaughter, right? And he says, no, look, man, I've always wanted to fight an incredible or a giant enemy at incredible odds.
Greg is one
Greg does not care.
Optimistic alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
Greg-
"We got
Greg is
this,
all in.
man.
He's like,
no
"Let's go."
worries. No worries. He's
Well,
either the greatest motivation.
Vagina
speaker or
alien's
just
gone at this point, so penis head alien doesn't care. He wants to die.
What else
He's
does he
all
have
about
to do live for?
penetration and plunging and destruction.
it would be
Masculine
sad.
ideal.
When
That's
they
right,
were-
Alex. Get hard.
Yeah. When they were hiding out in that asteroid, if he had sort of lost, if Greg had lost hope at some point, and you just saw him kind of deflating behind the thing,
Oh,
you're like,
you mean if he just shriveled back?
just sort of shriveled back.
Well, turtles have retractable penises, don't they?
Greg?
I think turtles have
Squirrels
retractable.
actually have retractable penises.
That's gross.
All
All right, so back on Earth for a second.
I can tell you some stories about that.
Let's not. Maggie,
Save
how
it
about
for
later? Save it for
Patreon.
the Patreon. There
I
we go.
really want to tell this story.
Tell us the story on the Patreon.
At the
I
Patreon,
forgot.
yeah.
Penis on
The
Patreon.
squirrel
Penis
penis
story.
story.
I think it
on
was
Patreon.
scrotum,
Charles.
scrotum, actually.
All right.
Just to be clear. Just
For those of you that aren't part of our Patreon, we keep recording about 10, 15 minutes after we're done, and you'll
an
get the
interesting
story,
story. I heard it on a
about a
podcast.
squirrel penis if you stick
We're
around.
going to
So-
get a bunch of
Not
sign-ups
a-
just
not-
to hear the squirrel penis story.
not-
There are going to be
squirrel
some
penis.
furries that sign
All
up for this
squirrel
Patreon.
All right, so we're back on Earth. Maggie apologizes to Alex, well, Beta Alex, about slapping him and says she'll make it up to him that night at Silver Lake.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, sounds great, Maggie. I don't have any genitals, but cool.
He's helping Otis out with the antenna.
With the antenna, 'cause that's what he does
Dropping
is-
it on Otis's head.
She gives him the
Electrical.
eyebrows too.
Yeah, and he's
So
like,
again, I had to explain to my son. I said, that aerial is something. When
we had to tell him what an antenna was.
I know when I said when Jenny and I
I
were
thought of
first
that too.
married, the first thing I did to our house was I
Yep.
put one of these up on the
Yeah, I thought
on
of
the
that
chimney,
too.
and he said, a satellite dish. It's like no, not a satellite.
He has one of those
from way before a
that's so
satellite
right. Didn't you
dish.
see
I vividly remember hearing my father cursing on the roof
Oh, yeah.
from inside the living room when he's up there trying to futz with
And
it.
if you were really cool and wealthy, you had a box in your house that would turn the thing.
Yes.
Right,
Get it
and I wasn't, and so I had it pointed toward Champaign. We were in Bloomington that had no TV stations. I pointed it toward Champaign, but then they were going to show Sinbad out of Peoria.
Oh.
So I climbed up on the roof
to change
and
it?
turned it around so I could watch Sinbad, and then climb back up and turn it back toward Champaign.
Was Sinbad
Was it worth it? Yeah.
It was worth it. And see, I had already seen The Last Starfighter. I knew I could do it, and I
there
had
you
a
go.
wife already.
There you go.
So
Oh,
it
you're
was
like,
nerd
I'm
wish
watching.
fulfillment
All
was
good.
coming through.
All right,
Yeah.
so we cut back to space. They come across their first live target. It's just one of the bad guy ships just randomly by themselves. They chase it into a melted lump of ice cream out in space. Think it's supposed to be an asteroid. And
That didn't remind me of Star Wars at all.
Greg tried-
Really? When they fly in and then
Yeah, I told you the director said there's nothing in common.
are you talking
with
about,
this
man?
movie and stuff.
Yeah, it totally
this
is.
entire movie.
Don't. It was not.
There was no giant worm in
movie.
that hole. It was
Yeah,
just
it
It
was
was
mostly-
mostly
Was
it
a
actually-
ripoff, dude.
It looked actually like a colonoscopy.
This was a knockoff, is what this was.
They
feel
couldn't.
like this
they couldn't
episode has
render
gotten
the
very
asteroid, so they just
scatological.
used the colonoscopy footage from the.
If they had done that,
Might
it
have
would have
been
been
better
more
footage.
realistic.
Yeah.
You would have been like, "Wow, that really
They
looks
really-
like."
Until
There's
some
the poo aliens,
doctor's
too.
in the movie and he chokes on his popcorn. He's like, that guy's got a polyp that looks serious.
I see some Klingons.
Whose ass was that?
You're
We
right.
need to get a hold of them immediately.
There's a doctor in the theater that's like drops his popcorn.
His wife's like, I know, honey, I know.
I've just been
I'm
dealing
sure
with all
they
this
took
shit all
care
day.
of
Now I
it.
gotta look at this.
All right,
Can you imagine a special effects guy saying, I think we could save $1 million?
all we need is a jar of this orange stuff. I'll drink it. Tomorrow we'll get it done.
They just ask all those
What do you say?
extras. Who's got a colonoscopy coming up in the next 3 months? We need your footage. We'll pay you
Hi,
$10
Grandma.
extra.
That's right.
We're gonna need.
Oh my gosh. So Greg kind of thrust Alex into this fight. Alex kind of freezes up. He doesn't want to. I mean, maybe the fact
you
that it's
mean
a
that as a
live
pun?
person. He
Thrust him into.
well, no, I didn't. But Alex does say, "You kind of pushed me into this. I wasn't ready to do this."
Yes.
He does ultimately pull the trigger and destroy this other ship, but then he's mad and he quits again.
Right.
Right.
This is the part where I didn't like
Yeah.
Alex. I feel like anytime you have this reluctant hero,
Yeah.
There's the
and
point
everybody,
that's gotta
the
end.
whole audience wants you to be a hero.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, I don't think I'm set to be the hero. I can save the universe, but no, I don't think I'm going to do it. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, that.
Yeah, he was the real beta Alex.
The second time was, you're right. It was too much. And then,
But then they have that heartfelt conversation, right?
Well, as they're flying through the caves, Greg does say, this reminds me of home, and we live underground
show
with
each
my
other their
wife-oid.
family
What the hell is a
pictures.
wife-oid?
Well, and then he has like a
like a
has
white
like
visa.
1,000 children.
He said 6,000 children,
Well,
and in
maybe
a
that
cave.
does support your penis.
And this is actually one of the
He's
one of the
full of many children.
this is one of the things that my wife actually gave it credit for. She said he has an iPhone. This was 84, and he pulls out his iPhone and he's showing.
He's like, look at all
he's
these pictures.
flipping through,
bet,
showing pictures of all of his
did.
family.
Who is
Yeah.
the big bad Apple guy?
The big
Steve
bad
Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
Watched this movie. He's
Oh,
like,
I'm
that's what our
sure he
phone
watched
should
this
look
movie.
like.
So that
Yeah.
they definitely. Greg had lots of kids and a wife-oid. And the funny thing about the picture of his wife was also Dan O'Hurley.
Yeah,
In the picture, he
that
played
was
his
funny, I
wife with a boa around his neck, and it was just him.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was.
Wow.
It said in the thing that he played.
That's
both.
commitment.
Yeah.
And they shared this little moment. He says, "Here's a picture of my family, and this is Maggie." And
His
you know,
dad
these are
was
my people.
apparently one of like the key grips or something.
He was actually the director of photography. He was the guy that
Oh.
the cinematographer. stood
Well,
in
and the
for
line that you're about to get to, which I think was one of the great lines, was
Yeah.
he said, "Well, we have caves too,
Right.
back where I live. But we live in these little houses. Well, not houses. We live in trailers, and they're sort of like houses on wheels, and they go places, but we never go places.
Right.
That was a great piece of writing.
Yeah.
You live in houses that never go
There's
places.
a cave that doesn't go anywhere. That's very interesting.
Very interesting, right? Which again goes back to you're not going to go anywhere if you don't do
they
something.
they keep that theme going. I like
Right.
it.
And so he
it's
does.
something
It
Maggie's
does
dealing
jog
with.
his memory that he says, we do have real caves that my brother and I used to play hide and seek in, and that kind of a light bulb goes off over his head, so to speak.
That was a good.
We
yeah.
can hide
And
here.
he says, "What if we just hid here, wait for the Armada to pass overhead, and then come up and attack him from behind the command ship?" And
Because
take
I
out the
bet
turret?"
the Armada will be exactly lined up in perfect symmetrical rows.
Yeah,
up and
so
down.
he knew exactly how they were going to come in, which was
Well,
impressive.
he did
Played
play
the game.
a lot. That's a good
did.
point. Yeah.
He had a high score.
It would be harder to render a CGI Armada that was everybody everywhere.
Yeah.
So as long as they move, right?
That'd be
There was like
easier.
13 enemy ships total. I mean, like they couldn't
I
render
thought all the
hundreds
way
of
along
ships.
I wouldn't
that-
call it
that
an
the-
armada.
The
Well, that was
issue-
just their limitations.
Yeah.
The issue
no,
in this movie was like there's only 18 starfighters. There's only like 13 bad guys.
Right.
What is this really that scary? Or
Well-
are we like
well, that's
down to
it's like
this is the last of us kind of thing?
when Ron Howard was talking about what is it? The
Lord of the
great
Rings?
No, actually, when he was talking about the 1939 Wizard of Oz, he said,
Oh, okay.
It's great, it's beautiful visually, but it does feel set bound.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, you can see, that was filmed inside of a warehouse.
Right.
Right. And there is a certain sense of that in a digital sense with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you can see they just didn't have enough money and they didn't have enough time and they didn't have enough power to render
Right.
more than
Process it all.
16. Right. So it all does feel like, it's all hinged on these 16 guys, but
Right. Sure.
It's sort of set bound.
They do end up killing. So they kind of come out and there's these 5 enemy fighters, and Alex takes them out pretty quickly. And it's right at that point when he goes, you know what? Maybe there is one starfighter left, right? And Griggs smiles. He's like, all right, here we go.
There you go.
But then we
Reaches
cut back
for his
to
inhaler.
I can't do that noise.
then we cut back to Silver Lake.
Is that something I should
And I
be
love this
concerned
scene. I love this scene, Silver Lake, when they're all making out under the
about?
blankets.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
that was
great.
fun.
This is so good.
I thought it was.
And I just thought, first of all, like, what a crappy job this beta has. Okay.
Yeah, really.
Because
and he
not
knows
only has he
it
got to be
too.
target
That's the funny
practice.
thing about him.
Yeah, he's got to be target practice for the bounty hunters.
Yes.
He has to not ruin Alex's relationship while he's
Yes.
down here. And apparently his other job is to bang his girlfriend at the lake.
That's part
okay?
of not ruining your relationship.
Well,
If girl's
well, that's
freaky,
what I'm
she
saying.
likes sticking her tongue in people's ears.
And so I'm sitting going, does Alex know that
Maybe
this
that's not
beta
freaky.
is
That's freaky in my
down here? Does he know that this beta is down here sleeping with his girlfriend?
Well, but the beta isn't. The beta is just trying to
no,
not
Beta's
get her
just
to
trying
break
not
up
to
with
break
him.
up because
Right.
he doesn't
Well,
always do it.
And so
But she's trying to.
Right, but he's looking over and he's getting these pointers.
That
And
was so
again,
funny.
as an 18-year-old kid watching this, and
That was a
and,
great scene.
he listens to the next
Yes.
couple, and the guy's like, "Hey, you're my Venus.
You're my Venus.
You're my Juliet."
Yeah.
And then he tries the line on her, and she responds.
great.
And I'm sitting there thinking, "That's a good line.
Yeah.
I could use that because
down, write that it down.
When you're an 18-year-old nerd,
You're my
and you're
density.
like,
I actually thought about it. I don't think I
that's-
said this.
You're my
but
density.
I was going to tell Elijah, said, hey, that one might work
There you go.
Right.
when you're married. Because
And then the
Poor
third
thing is he's
line-
got the
before you're
worst
married,
job,
but-
though.
The
'cause,
third line he hears is, "Hey, all those other girls didn't
This
mean
was such
anything
a
to
great,
me.
this was such a
It's
good
only-
build
it's-
up to that.
It's only been you." And he says, "Hey,
Because
all
you
those other
know-
girls didn't mean anything to me."
And you know that she's going to freak out. And you're like, don't say it, Beta
No,
Alex. It's going to go bad.
That's
it
not
just
a great line.
perfectly goes
That
great,
one.
yes.
Yeah.
That was
Should I talk
great.
dirty to you now?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
What? That was great.
Well,
I
the
loved
first
how
thing they
built
wake
that
up, they come up out of the blanket, and he goes, "What? Do you want me to stick my tongue in your ear now?"
Yeah. Which again, if you understand the context, you would think, well, that is like the most sarcastic thing you could have possibly said to me.
Yes,
And he just thinks, well, that's what you do now. Is
No,
just
he's
say
like, "I'm
tongue in."
sorry, I'm new to these gland games."
Yeah, that
That was a good line.
awesome.
I liked that
That
line.
whole scene is great.
Yeah.
I love those scenes.
Because to
They're
him,
really funny.
like,
I was laughing out
To him,
loud
that's
and
what it
all
would
that.
seem like, right?
Yeah, he doesn't-
Gland
Right.
games. He doesn't
Right.
understand what's.
Well, that's part of the reason I
happening.
think that the actor, when he's playing the beta, is better than when he's playing the leading man. And
Yeah.
and I've had this experience myself. It's easier to play a character
Yes.
than it is to play the leading
Right.
man, because when you're playing the leading man, you have to be desirable and you have to be sort of straight and
Yeah.
you have to be no nonsense. Whereas when you're playing the character, you can be ridiculous and you can
Yeah.
do things like say, I'm tired of these gland games," and so I think that's why he's got a better performance out of that.
sure.
It's a better part.
For sure.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he gets fed up with it. He gets fine. He just outs himself. He's like, "You know what? I'm not Alex."
She doesn't
You know?
believe him. But then he gets shot.
Right. So the bounty, he's not
And
only
it's
does
a
he say
scene.
I'm not Alex, he says I'm not Alex, and Alex is in space fighting right in front of the alien bounty hunter, unbeknownst to
Yes.
him,
And he says,
Yeah.
"I'm just a beta," and then he gets shot, and then it's clear that he's just a beta.
which is good timing to prove his point because there's now all his circuits and stuff are exposed.
And she's like, what?
And the
I
bounty
stuck
hunter,
my tongue in your ear.
the alien bounty hunter dips. He's trying to get back to his little spaceship
Got to report
to
that
let
the
them know
gunfighter's still alive.
that there's still a starfighter out
Right.
there, right?
Starfighter, yeah.
And so they jump into douchey guy's truck.
He wasn't
Yep.
that douchey, actually. He was a nice friend.
Blake, you're a pro Blake. Blake
Blake was, he had a hooter
Yeah,
horn.
Charles is
he
team
was
Blake
a
because of his
douche
hooter
canoe.
horn.
That hooter horn's awesome.
Oh, we know all it takes for Charles to be your buddy.
There's a couple of hooters.
A lifted dram and a
pretty
couple
happy with
of
the Hooters
Hooters
I
on
had.
So the
my
beta
house tomorrow.
drives back.
He's driving towards, or he's chasing the cop, and Maggie has also jumped in the truck because she wants to find out what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're gonna. Well, they're supposed to jump out of the truck and let the truck collide with the spaceship.
Beta Alex is awesome.
He convinces Maggie to jump,
Pop
but
out.
he doesn't.
Ready on 3.
yes.
3.
And he says, "You owe me one, Alex,"
You owe me
right
one,
before
Alex. And then
he kills himself and crashes into the spaceship.
But again, there's actually not really a story reason that he would not jump out.
Right.
It's just that you can't have a beta running around being
No,
Alex.
it's an easy
for
way
the
to get
rest-
rid of him.
Right. You have to get rid of him for a story point because you can't have him hanging
We had
out.
to make sure he hit the ship
Yes.
so that
Yes.
it blew up.
right.
So maybe he's just like, I got to do this.
Now, all of this is intercut with this transmission being sent to the enemy ship. And like, hold on, we're receiving a message from the bounty hunter. The last
Last
Starfighter
Starfighter
is, and then
dot.
boom.
yeah.
Why did he send the ... Just tell us when it is.
Right.
If he hadn't done that, they would have got the message.
And the Emperor's like, he's dead.
Maybe he
He's
died.
dead. That's
He's
what he is.
dead.
He's dead. Of course.
Yeah. So the Emperor
Ding dong,
just
the witch is
says,
dead. The wicked witch is dead.
I told you there weren't any Starfighters, you idiots.
Yeah.
Full ahead,
Yeah.
invade, all of you. And so Zur sends the whole fleet through.
Ozer.
All
Making the
16.
assumption that the bounty hunter completed his mission, right? That he was simply reporting the last Starfighter is dead,
Yes.
right? And so they send all 14 of their ships,
Boy, was he wrong.
their giant command ship, through the hole they've carved in the frontier.
I
is
think
just
they
this
had Rainbow Dash flying in circles to make that thing, man.
Hey,
the frontier is just this invisible wall that's been built around the peaceful systems of the universe,
Right.
And they are cutting through it to get their enemy armada in. Probably should have said that earlier, but
Yeah.
essentially now the whole thing is coming through.
And this is in the same universe as My Little Pony we just established.
And I thought
Might
the
as
one,
well be.
I thought the one cutaway right before Alex's, he's literally like, "All right, you've been recruited by Star Command." He's like reciting the video game
Intro.
thing back to himself,
Yeah.
intro, which was cool. And I'm like, "All right, they're building up. This is really well done." Then they cut back to Maggie for that one cheese ball. "I love you, Alex Rogan," like to the
Yeah,
stars.
it's kind of.
I'm like, okay, well, all right, fine. Like I said, this is-
Why don't you go lick someone's ear, Maggie?
Come back so I can lick your ear.
Yeah.
Ew.
And he's flying in. And so we get the final battle here. Alex is going in for the kills. And the final battle is actually really short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shorter than I remembered as a kid anyway. And I just chalked this up to saying how much of the space battle could they render and do kind of reasonably.
I'm sure that's
Yeah,
what it
I
is.
paused
It
to
had
go
to
to
be
the
pretty
restroom,
short.
and I was like, wait, there's only like 20 minutes left of this movie.
Yeah. And so
we haven't even gotten to the big battle.
he flies through the middle of this thing because they don't know. I mean, well, at the last second, right before Alex attacks, they get him on radar, and the two poopy aliens say to Zur, like, it's a Gunstar, take Zur, and they arrest him or
they're
take him
pissed.
away.
Yeah.
Like, drag this guy out of
This
here.
guy's been an idiot, and why have we put up with him the whole time?
And one of the worst acting takes in the entire movie is him fake being dragged away. Did you
Yes,
see
I
this?
saw it.
It was the most pathetic, like, don't drag me away. He's still like, literally walking
please,
backwards.
That
He's
was
just throwing his head back and forth. You'll
was-
pay with it for this
that
with your
was bad.
lives.
Well, one of the things that I think is really charming about that is that they get him pulled away.
Yeah.
Then there's like an explosion on the ship.
Yeah.
He gets away from the handlers. He knocks one of them over.
Yeah.
The guy's helmet comes off. The eyes come out.
Yeah.
And then the Emperor grabs his scepter and like jumps through a little trash compactor.
That's what it looked like, the trash compactor shoot.
Right. And I think, and the thing I think is charming about that is I was thinking they think there's going to be a sequel.
Yes, they
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's let him escape.
You heard the computer voice say escape pod launching or whatever.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yep.
there's gonna be another one because people love this film so
Yes.
much.
Oh,
They
there should have
tried to
been
make a
another
few
one.
over
Gonna
the
make
years,
another one.
apparently, in IMDb, twice.
All
They
right.
tried to make a Broadway musical.
Well, they made other Iron Eagles. So.
That's true. That's a good point.
They had to
That's a good
finish
point.
this fight quick because the computers were literally starting to on fire. At
Yeah,
this
that's
point.
right.
Yeah.
They were
We can't keep it cool, Captain.
I think the term,
Throw more water
technical
on
term
it.
is halt and catch fire.
holding catch fire. That's what's
That's actually a
happening.
command that he used to run.
Yeah, and so Alex flies in and he's taking dudes out right through the middle of the Armada.
Yeah, man.
And then eventually he uses up all the juice or whatever.
Yeah,
and
this is what I thought was fun.
They're waiting. He's like, time to use the Death Blossom. No. We got to wait until they're all in the Death Blossom
Yeah.
range.
Well, here's what I thought was funny about that. is The
Almost
ship
there.
is running out of energy, right? Literally running out of energy. And they have enough energy to run this Death Blossom. Where
Yeah.
are they getting the extra power to run the Death Blossom?
Well,
From willpower and friendship.
yes.
it's a
Right.
yeah.
It's the Blossom.
It's friendship is magic.
Friendship is magic.
it is
Johnny
the My Little Pony
Five's
world.
auxiliary battery.
You found it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What's he doing with that thing? Oh, that's after.
That's
isn't
after
it?
that. I can't
Oh,
wait
yeah.
to get to that,
I think
especially
that-
with the
I think
computer
that
doctor
every
here.
DB, every douchebag has the energy inside.
Yeah.
They're
Alex harnessed his
charging
power.
Blake's energy.
That's right.
Yeah.
He did. And ultimately, they all got within the veil of this Death Blossom. And so he pushes, as a kid, the coolest looking button. I mean, who doesn't want to push the red and white
That was
striped
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
button, right? And you're like, donk. And the thing just, he goes into full, like, think of those space,
That was neat. I
those
liked
space
this.
things that
Yeah.
people flip around in like
That was
crazy.
good.
Yeah.
That was good.
I don't know what those are called.
Gyroscope.
He just goes nuts. The whole Gunstar is spinning around, shooting lasers in every direction,
My
and
daughter said
basically
that was cool.
kills all of them except for the giant command ship. But what and I know it's scientifically it wouldn't make sense, but I really wanted it. All I could think of it was gonna vomit, like from Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, sick as a dog now. I just
We
wanted
talked about
Alex
that.
to sit for a second and just
Yeah.
go and just like spit into a cup or something.
Yeah.
We talked about that in my living room, and we decided it's because zero G thing.
Well, that's probably why.
Maybe,
But I would have,
but-
loved if he had just, after it was over, just sprayed vomit all over the inside of the cockpit.
That would have been the R-rated cut, though.
He spun around and then afterwards he was like, "They're dead. They're all gone."
You
And
guys
I'm
want to get some
perfectly
chicken nuggets or
It's like this is why we don't recruit humans.
yeah. No, I think the DB was definitely a disappointment when I watched it.
Oh, did
I
you?
liked it.
I thought that
The little flappy flaps came
well,
out. and-
here's the thing
Those are
is
cool.
I know we keep saying, well, we'll just chalk it up to they couldn't do it with the computer, but like don't frickin' do it with the computer then, guys. Like get a
point.
firework
But I
and
liked
blow it
it.
up. Like
Get a fi-
it's not that hard.
just
George
attach
did it.
a bunch of strings to the Gunstar and spin it
Well,
around.
no,
in a
they
circle.
did it with the later in like 5 seconds. They do a big explosion and you
Yeah.
can tell it's a firework.
Yeah.
And it's like, why didn't you do that?
I get it.
I like the spitty.
Well, that's it. I mean, you have to decide how much are you going to be willing to say, okay, I'll accept that.
Right.
I'll let that go.
I thought that was the best
Yeah.
effect in the movie.
And I think that's actually where the people will come down as to whether this is a good film or not a good film is some of us get to the point where it's like, yeah, I know that's not acceptable, and others are just like, let's just
go
let
with it.
go.
It's
Let's
in
just
those
let it go.
moments when you decide one or the other, and that's going to decide whether you
Right.
liked it or not. Yeah.
Right.
No, for sure.
I made my call way before any special
yeah.
effects
We know
showed
where
up.
So at this point, after they
Mr. Computer Doctor over there.
after they use all the power from the Death Blossom, the ship is dead in the water essentially and just floating there. And so the command ship is left, and they don't have their guns aren't working either. And he's like, forget the guns. The evil guy is like, let's just literally run into them. And this whole time they're now trying to figure out where are we going to get auxiliary power from, and it looked like Greg is just taking like speaker wires and like
That's all
attaching
he
them
was
to a
doing,
circuit
actually.
board with lights on it.
That's pretty much what it was.
I'm not a doctor like you are, but I feel like that's not how that works.
Hey,
Well, yeah. I mean,
How much you know about
Times.
spaceships?
unless you have some sort of auxiliary power that you can rewire in. But at that point, if you're in a spaceship, you probably already have a way to reroute that without pulling physical wires out.
That's what I'm saying.
It's basically it can handle like 9 volts.
Well,
it's not.
But that's the thing is,
gonna
if
be
it's
enough.
that much power and you're just using your fingers, you're telling me
Right.
it can't arc over and shock you?
Right.
Greg gets fried, and that's how he
He
dies.
looks even less like a penis. He looks more like one of the turd aliens.
They get out of there, but when he turns around, like, we did it, Greg, and he's just like,
Greg? Shriveled up, and it's all smoke.
you're like, ugh, that's not good. They get out of the way because he finds this auxiliary power. They're able to get out of the way in time, and the ship can't stop itself or correct course.
He's
The
saying,
giant command
damage
ship.
report. He's telling him all this stuff.
He says the helm's not responding. We're now caught in the moon's gravitational
What are
pull.
we gonna
What
do?
are we gonna do?
We die.
That's
no,
right.
He flips
No,
down his
flips.
Google Glass, and then they die.
We die. And then they did very quickly.
Did he need to do the monocle? There's no other reason to do it other than he thought to himself,
Yeah.
this is for dramatic effect. And closed it, and then we die.
Well, and you have to wonder, the actor reading that, he's like looking at this like, yeah, that seems like a good line. I'm just going to go all in on that line. We die.
Die.
Oh, it's so good. So they crash into this moon.
Yeah.
And the command ship explodes, and Alex has won and saved the day.
Yes.
And they have this big welcoming party on Rylos where they land on top of this platform.
Yeah,
That's
great.
4 miles in the air.
Armies of
from
Jar
the
Jar
people.
Binks is
And it just
marching
made
in.
it so
There's a
laughable.
lot of people there.
But that,
Yeah.
actually, the one good thing about that, it was finally you felt like there was actually a civilization.
People there.
Yeah.
Right. It felt like
Why are there so few starfighters then if there's a whole civilization out there?
I just like to me I feel like I could see the seams here a little bit. 'Cause they're
Right.
Like, let's land and let's address the crowd, but from the highest platform available, so we don't have to be close enough to put any makeup on any of these aliens.
Yeah.
that's what.
Or
yeah.
show them in
That
any
actually was
way.
legit true. They were going to do a scene like the end of Star Wars, and they're like, we don't have the money for this.
That's what I'm saying. And so the one shot from the crowd you see is from the backs of all their heads.
Yes.
Right? And otherwise they're so high you can see nothing. And that's how they avoided having to put makeup
Just turn the
or
lights down.
anything
No one will know.
on anyone. Like, we're going to be on this platform that's like the size of a skyscraper, and Alex is supposed to walk down and be like, hello, everybody down there.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Do the little waving
okay,
thing.
so last night we were watching the original Godzilla, and one of the great things about the original Godzilla is that they hadn't yet figured out. Okay, when we hire 500 extras, they're all going to be paid nothing, and they have to basically just show up and run for their lives.
Oh my God.
The thing that you have to tell them is if
Where's
you
the bad guy?
smile.
Oh, smile.
While you're running, you will not be in this film.
Yeah.
So you can't smile because
People will do that.
People are all running and they're laughing and they're smiling.
Yeah.
And Godzilla's behind them and they're all like running along. It's like, you guys, that's like the first thing you need to tell the crowd in the
Right.
crowd seats is don't laugh and
You're
smile
not smiling.
while you're running. But they hadn't figured that out yet. And then they
Right.
saw the rushes later and they're like, well, it's too late. We have to just go with these laughing, smiling people. So again, I give them too much leeway, but it's like, let's just put the backs of their heads and let's pretend like they're
That's
people.
it.
And
And we also find out that Centauri is alive. He was just regenerating like Doctor Who or something. Like they're just like, oh, I was just asleep.
surprised.
Shut myself down for a
That guy's
little
a
bit.
total
Went into
manipulator.
sleep mode.
right.
Like, I wasn't dying. I just was.
I'm part
Now
form.
I'm-
I'm just going to regenerate.
I'm Centauri the White.
So was,
Hey, it wasn't related.
was Greg in on that deal? Did he know he wasn't dead
I don't think he did.
Because he closed his eyes and he's like all
seemed
sad
to
too.
fully sell
This
the
is what you
fact
got to do to put him in sleep mode.
Greg's like, I can't
Well,
do
you
the
know,
sound
if you
anymore.
have a
He's like,
lot
"Look
of
who's
different
here."
aliens around, you probably are like Oh, I forgot. You're the kinds
you
that don't
can do
die.
that.
Right.
Yeah,
I thought
maybe.
you were. Yeah. There's probably a lot of those really awkward moments where there's like a service happening, and one of them pops up. You're like, oh yes, you guys don't
cut.
die.
I
I'm
forgot
sorry.
your face was a vagina, not an actual.
Oh my god.
We gotta get to the end. We gotta get to the end.
I'm so
confusing
sorry.
times.
I'm so sorry.
So Alex
What are you doing
returns.
to my
This
face?
is the final scene. Is we're back at the trailer park, and Maggie doesn't know where Alex is. She knows he's in space supposedly, but for all she knows, maybe that was Alex that crashed into the spaceship earlier. She doesn't know. And they're all back there, and all of a sudden, this bright blue light comes down, and the gun star is landing at the trailer park.
Yeah.
I thought this looked pretty good, compared to everything else in the movie, and Alex starts descending on this elevator, and you can't quite see who it is yet, and everyone's coming up, but they don't want to get too close. And Maggie's going all the way up to the ship.
knows. She
And even Otis is like,
believes.
Maggie, like, what are you doing? She's like, no. Alex comes down, fogged up mask and everything. He takes off the helmet. It's the hero shot, right? And he says,
It's good.
hey, Mags, right? And they have this reunion. And I thought this part of the scene was really well done. And then the
That part?
townspeople showed up.
That part of the scene?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
We were good at that part.
All the townspeople come up, and it turns into this cheesy mishmash of
Loved
just
it. It was so
nonsense.
heartfelt.
Oh, okay.
Greg comes down and everyone's like, "Hey, buddy, nice
I will
to meet you."
Is that what happened? Because when Greg
Yeah.
came down, one lady's like, "It's a monster,"
She got a shotgun.
but the one
Yeah, the granny's got to shoot him with a shotgun.
he walks up and she's like, "Greg, this is Mrs. Boone," and Mrs. Boone licks her lips.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, hello, Mr.
Well,
Penis
she-
Head.
She saw what you saw.
That's the biggest penis I've ever seen.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They
And,
all the old ladies were
Then
like,
the second one, the same thing. I was like, first of all, what's going on with
They
the old
could all be
ladies
widowers,
and
man.
Greg?
It's been a
What's
while.
happening with what's
I ain't
happening?
seen that one as big in years.
Oh my god!
So I was like, what's
You like
happening with
to
all
come
the
over
old
to my
ladies and Greg? At the same time, Alex's mom shows up. Now, I know we're to do our awards here in a minute, so I'm going to let a cat out of the bag because I have to explain the feelings on this.
She's an awesome actress. She really carries.
She's 100% the trash can full of dirt for me. And she wasn't until this last scene. It was like the equivalent of hitting a walk-off in the 9th inning to win the award. She came in. She was like, Alex, what is all this?
Golly gee!
What's it look like, Mom?
Well, I knew you'd be going away someday, but I didn't expect this. And I go, what is she doing? She's been totally normal the whole
You know what
movie.
it was like? It was like the dude from McHale's Navy when he is in the jail and he's like, like that's like pretty much what it was.
Well, how would you act if your daughter came down on a spaceship?
He'd
and
go,
all of a sudden-
Grace,
Not like
what is this?
What are you doing?
I knew you'd be going away someday. I thought it'd be the Oshkosh.
All that said, he introduces Greg to everybody, but the scene is really about him and Maggie.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And Lewis comes up and he gets to meet an alien, and that's cool. He's like, all right, we're getting invaded. You know, it's like something wrong with this kid. But Alex finally, after they do all the intros and the highs and the hellos, it's back to him and Maggie. And he goes, Lewis wants to go with him. He says, I'm sorry, but there's only room for Greg, me, and Maggie. And Maggie's like, what? I can't go to space. And here's where all that tension they'd built up comes to a head where, is she going to leave or is she not? And she again says, what about Granny? Which is what she had said before.
Right.
Ultimately, Alex is like, look, this is it for us. I've got to go and I want you to come with, but if you're not, I'm still going. Gets back on the elevator, and just as he's starting to rise, she just says, Granny, and that's all she has to say. And Grandma's like, make sure you write to me or whatever you do up there.
Right.
And off she runs to jump up on the elevator.
See, now, again, this is one of those moments where when I was watching it with my wife, and there's the point where is she going to go with him or is she not going to go with him?
Yeah.
My wife said, come on, girl, you're 17 years old. You don't know what you want. And I thought, yes, go with him.
Yeah.
What my wife was saying is, don't go with him. Don't. You don't know anything about this guy. Why are you going to go and leave everything you know to be with this guy?
She gets to go to space.
So
in a
again, I'm
spaceship.
thinking of this as a young man with this girl that loves him, and
Yeah.
it's like we're going to go see
Just
the
go
universe.
hang out with your
We're going to have this
boyfriend?
amazing thing.
Right.
And my wife is like, you would never leave the planet with a dork
I don't
like
know,
that.
man.
I don't know.
You mean going to space with your boyfriend and a giant penis wouldn't be attractive to a 17-year-old girl?
I don't think I agreed with Jenny on the last thing, but this I think maybe makes a lot more sense as a father of daughters. So I'd be like, maybe don't go with the boyfriend.
Don't get in a
into
car
space.
with a stranger. Don't get in a spaceship with a
Well, and
stranger.
see, after when Spielberg made Close Encounters and he had Roy fly off with the aliens,
Yeah.
he said, after he had his own kids, he said, I could never
I
have
remember
that ending.
Yeah. No, because he
where
left his wife and
I
his
would
kids.
leave my wife and kids and fly off into space.
Yeah.
I could never have that as part of a show before because I didn't have a wife and kids.
But
I
he
didn't
was
know what
single
it
at
would
the
be
time.
like.
Yeah.
He was single at the time, right? So it does change your perspective. You're thinking, well, now
100%.
come on.
Yes. All right. And I don't know if but now apparently, and I want to say this, one of our patrons emailed me and said, I know this is essentially the end of the movie here, but JP Dozier emailed in and said that Gary Whitta, the guy that made Rogue One, and the original writer are currently working on a reboot of Last Starfighter.
That's been like
Really?
forever.
So,
isn't it?
that's cool.
But this is the Rogue One guy. This is a new rumor.
The reason why it's going on so long is because they're waiting for the images to render.
There's a
had it in
version
the
of this
can
that's
for 20,
almost
40
done.
years.
And this time we're gonna have 28 enemy ships.
You know, that's one of the things I said to Aiden is that this is basically the opposite of Ready Player One.
Right.
Because in Ready Player One, they're all living in terrible looking trailer parks and they're all playing video games.
Yeah.
It's not just one guy.
It's true.
And then, you find out that there's this whole other universe out there.
You know what else it's similar to is Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I
That
didn't
came
think
out
about
like the
that.
year after. The book did.
And I told Aiden,
So they ripped off Starfighter.
if Alex hadn't gone ahead and done this, we wouldn't have ended up in the Ready Player One universe.
There you go.
We're all being
fair.
infected by his success. See?
I would, for me, maybe it's a chance to see it with modern effects and things. I would welcome another Last Starfighter.
Yeah, sure. I would see another one.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome.
I think
if it had the same spirit of this, I think part of what you were saying earlier, Rob, is part of what makes this movie for me overcome some of the nonsense is that kind-hearted goodness,
there's an optimism,
earnestness, and optimism.
And it is earnest. It believes in itself.
Yeah.
And so it's easier for you to believe in it because it's not the cynical thing.
So hopefully they wouldn't do that with the new one. As long as they kept that same kind of vibe, I think it would be good.
Does anyone keep that vibe anymore?
That's why I'm saying it, because I would hope that would be the case. All right, how about we move on? Let's give this movie some awards. You guys ready to give this some awards?
Yep.
All right, we start as
many trash cans
always.
do I get?
You get one trash can and one trash can only. But before we get to the trash can, we've got the Will Patton Award for intensity.
Oh, yes.
You want a war? I'll give you a war!
I don't want them to gain another yard.
You blitz all night! And if they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm gonna take every last one of you out. You make sure they remember forever the night they played the Titans.
Wow.
That's so intense.
Dude, he's intense in every single thing.
All night!
That's right. Oh my God, man! I just even to this day I get goosebumps when I see that movie. Remember the Titans, and he calls the defense into a huddle. This is after the refs have been trying to blow the game on purpose.
Yeah.
Right. And he says that whole speech there, right? And he's like, "I'll take every one of you out." They cross the line of scrimmage one time, and the look on his face. I'm ready to break my television in half by the time it's over because I want to get in there. And this guy's awesome. Anyway, sorry. Talk about Will Patton all day long. But we give out an award to the actor that maybe this movie didn't call for that type of intensity, but who was the actor that took their role the most seriously, that was dialed in, that's like, even though we're making this popcorn movie, essentially a Saturday matinee type film, who took it all the way and really went for it? Who are your nominations for the Will Patton Award for intensity?
Will Patton Award.
Anyone want to start? Go ahead.
I'll start.
Okay, who you got?
Greg. The guy that played
Greg. Dan O'Hurley.
Thought he was fully into that character.
Yeah. No, I'm
Sold it.
100%.
I liked him.
I would have to say Emperor Zur just because he was so over the top.
He was.
The whole time he was just totally committed to being.
He was like, I'm going to be the biggest piece of shit that I can.
Yeah, exactly.
And I believe in myself.
Yeah.
He had just got done watching Willy Wonka, and he's like, saw Veruca Salt, and he's like, that's how I'm going to do
That's
this.
me.
That's me. Yeah, I went with Robert Preston. I know it wasn't necessarily an intense performance, but there were moments of seriousness. And I think part of that when he would switch from salesy guy into I'm being serious now about this, it really worked and resonated with me. So I thought Preston knocked it out of the park. So I went with Robert Preston. Yeah.
I went with Zur as well.
Zur as well. So that's 2 for Zur, 1 for O'Haley, and 1 for Robert Preston as we go to our patrons.
Do we want to know about the kids table?
He'll be a tiebreaker if it comes down to it. But I do want to hear at the end who you had as your person. Okay. We have patrons, 3 of them playing with us today. So we're going to get through this quick. JP Dozier, who has told me before this is his favorite movie of all time.
Really?
So
Favorite movie?
When found out we were doing this, he was very excited. So, of course, we had
I hope we
JP
didn't
on here.
disappoint him.
And he went with
That's a lot of pressure.
tie between Robert Preston and Dan O'Harely.
Oh,
so
nice.
he says they both gave 110% to the roles and were fantastic. He was not going to pick between the 2 of them.
Right.
But we still have 2 for Zur, essentially.
He's a fanboy.
Melissa Hewitt is one of the people playing
Who's
along
that?
today.
Oh.
Somebody.
I know
wife.
her.
You know her.
I know her.
She went with Robert Preston, still the charming music man.
Yep.
And you believe him. So there's a tie right there, 3 ways.
All right.
And so, well, actually, no, he's 3-2. But Zur also gets a vote from Dave Parkinson. Don't call him Paul.
Paul.
Is coming all the way in
All right.
from Australia. And so we do have a tie, Ryan, between Zur and Robert Preston, which is going to be up to you to break the tie.
So I had an honorable mention.
So give us the honorable mention.
Alien that got his tentacle stepped on.
Oh, there you go.
I should grind you into gore and dust.
He had one job and did it well.
He did a good job.
But I went with Robert Preston.
Oh, well, there you go.
Right.
There you go.
Then Robert Preston is going to win the Will Patton Award for intensity. So congratulations to Robert Preston. With a close follow-up from Zur.
Job,
And of course, you don't know that he didn't know that this was going to be his last performance, but it was a wonderful performance.
It was good.
Certain, it was a callback to his previous work, but also a new thing that was a little bit
and
different.
I thought that it was a perfect fit for this film. I mean, it's like,
oh yeah,
what a weird decision to have the Music Man in the middle of this film, and yet it totally worked.
It strikes me as if you would remake this, who would you put in that role?
Yeah,
Arnold.
I don't.
Tough.
Well, Hugh Jackman, right? He just did the Music
Oh,
Man on
Jackman.
Broadway for.
Jackman.
So why not just keep
He could
that same
probably- he
theme
could
going
probably.
and have Hugh Jackman do it? It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so now we move on to the Michael Dudikoff Trash Can Full of Dirt Award, which is the award you don't want to win on this show. The one that we give to the worst actor in the film, the one with the range of a trash can full of dirt. And I'll just start since I've already said who mine is, and that's Barbara Bosan, the mother of Alex in this movie. So guys, who else do you guys got for the Trash Can Full of Dirt? Ryan?
You guys aren't going to like me.
Go ahead, just let us know.
I put Greg down.
What?
Dan O'Harely?
But
What?
I did
You're
tell
right,
my-
we don't
okay,
like you. What is
but-
that crap going on? He's the best guy in the whole freaking movie, and you're going to put him down as a trash can?
You can't have him as the trash can.
Jeez, seriously. I might even throw one. I'm not that violent. Oh, yeah, I get shot.
Are you going to let me talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
This looks like it might hurt if I threw it.
Don't throw the Death Star. That's heavy.
Hey,
Seriously, what is
shut
this made
up!
out of?
Sorry.
Oh, I dropped it. Is it a bomb?
No, it's a Death Star. It's the
right.
Death Star.
Okay,
from
let him
Star
explain.
I don't want him to.
Go ahead.
'cause He has no reasonable
Wars.
explanation
All right.
to give.
Ryan has the floor.
Anyway. I did tell my wife that I couldn't tell how much of his performance was inhibited by his suit. And so when you guys mentioned that earlier, that made me think of changing it. And so I am going to change it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because-
now I feel bad again.
There's justice in the world.
Because I
Jeez.
did say to her that if that was it, then I feel kind of bad because I think that's why he started doing the whole like just to try to get something.
I think because that's an alien.
So
That's what he does.
Sure.
But I would go with Barbara.
Barbara Bosan.
Yeah.
All right,
She was
that's
pretty
two.
bad.
We're almost there, guys.
She
We're
was
almost there. All right, who you got, Charles?
I was going to say Blake, but I'm going to take the mom. You're right.
Yeah.
She was bad that whole movie. Through.
I'm gonna turn this whole
Rally
table
the
around.
troops.
You were right about that. I never thought she was that great, but no, yeah, she wasn't good.
You don't have to join the bandwagon.
No, actually, I was going to say the kid that played Lewis, and the reason
What? He was great. Lewis was awesome. He was awesome.
the reason is that I will forgive bad CGI because that was back at the time where they were still working on it. But there had been good
Lewis was a good actor.
child
you do that?
performances.
There was
before.
very
You saw him
few.
looking
I
at
have
Playboy
this- I
like
have
he was
this-
really looking at it.
There were
know.
very few.
There
I
were-
believed he was checking out naked chicks.
And he
Rob.
said the S word, and then he like said, "No, you're
Alex,
dreaming, Lewis. Go back
what
to
the
bed."
hell is going on?
Yeah.
okay, so maybe the problem is if you're a young actor and you're in a role that makes you completely annoying,
He did a great
then
job.
I can't see that it's just that it's the role that makes me hate you, rather than your performance. But
He's shooting people with
I think I know why you're doing this, because you talked the whole episode about putting yourself in Alex's shoes, and so to you,
Yeah, do you have
he's
a
the
little brother
annoying
that
little
annoyed
brother.
you?
Yeah.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
there have been young actors, and actually, you're going to really hate me for this.
Oh, great.
But Short Round, I disliked Short Round for the same reason, because it was like
Short round
flip-flop right
from.
there.
I can't
Yeah.
throw a flip flop at Rob King.
Do you want me to?
because he was just so
don't-
annoying.
I just
remembering who
there
Short
were
Round is
scenes
now. It's kinda
there were
late.
scenes that I liked him in, but hey, you don't talk to Andy like that. Hey, lady, you don't talk to It's like, okay, come on, this is just so friggin' annoying, and it's maybe because of the roles that they're getting to play when they have to play the annoying little kid.
Rob-
If we weren't overtime, I'd have a 20-minute conversation with you about
really-
this.
I'll keep
right.
this brief.
We still have to do our 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I just had to distract people from Ryan's
Gotta go to work.
Yeah.
paw
Thanks,
by
Rob.
saying something that would allow me to be pilloried.
But I will say, I think what it really boils down to is he shot those darts and didn't go collect them. That's what you're
didn't.
upset about.
And also just it was the creepiness with the Playboys.
That's
and it was-
80s though, man.
All right, so
was
David went with Zur. No, wait. Yeah, with Zur. He said he was totally useless.
Yeah, he was.
agree, actually.
Yeah, sure.
He gave Mary Stewart, Mary Catherine Stewart, isn't it? Yeah, Mary Catherine Stewart, an honorable mention. John Paul
trash
Dozier.
can?
Yeah, John Paul Dozier went with Alex's friends, said they were filler, like dirt in a trash can. None of them were entertaining. He initially
one
was
of
going to
those
say Zur,
friends-
though, as
Yeah,
well.
the
but he
friends
didn't.
were pretty bad.
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton was actually one of
yeah.
one of Lewis's friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
You saw him running through the park at the beginning, and at the end, he's wearing
He
the
had
red
he,
shirt.
he actually
And
had 2 lines, and they were
cut it.
cut.
And
right.
my wife is a
interesting.
huge Will Wheaton fan. We
Yeah.
actually had to rewind this in order to
Well, that's what she's about to say, actually,
yeah.
right now. So
see how well I know her.
that's right. Mel went with, she said, also almost went Zur. So we had 2 people that almost went Zur but didn't, or he would have contended for the role or for the award. He said, but Blake, the truck guy douchebag, could be replaced.
Yes.
And that was like his whole character. He's the where's my truck guy.
You know how long I've been driving this red truck?
Yes, those cool hooter horn.
And so that means Barbara Bosan is going to win
right.
the trash can full of dirt. Alex's mom, good
She
job.
good in other stuff?
All right, so in quick order, if you guys hopefully have, who was your trash can, by the way?
The mom.
So there you go.
She,
She was
was
almost
walk
smashed.
off, bottom of the ninth,
Yeah, she was bad.
hit the grand slam to walk it
She
off.
wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Because I had somebody else until that
Through the,
last scene.
through the
I was like,
touchdown
well,
from
Who'd
half
you have
court
before
to
that scene?
win it.
before that scene,
Yeah, who'd you have?
I had Blake, the friend. So
Yeah, Blake could have been.
all right, so we got our top 3 performers. Let's rattle them off. Who you got?
Lord Krill, just because I enjoyed
Okay.
his role. That was the
Poopy alien.
guy, yeah,
Yeah.
with the little monocle. Lewis,
Okay.
I thought he did a good job. And then Beta Alex.
Beta Alex,
Not
number 1.
primary, but Beta.
So I had Lewis also in my top 3. We both had him in our top 3. Number 3, Robert Preston, I had at number 2, and I had Lance Guest at number 1. I will say I do think his Beta performance was better.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also just as regular Alex, I think this movie doesn't work if he's not endearing and
Right.
charming and good. And so I'm going to give him
Yeah.
full props, not just for Beta, which I acknowledge is better, but I thought he just did good overall. So who you got as your 3?
All right, I got the primaries. Dan O'Hirley Grigg, 3.
Okay.
Beta Alex, just Beta Alex.
Okay.
And Centauri.
Centaur, Robert Preston, number
he was
1.
great, yeah.
All right.
So I have at 3 Grig, at 2 Centauri, and at 1 Alex.
Okay, so Alex, 3 out of the 4 of us had him at number 1.
Only Beta Alex.
You had Beta at least in your top 3, so that's good. So lots of love for Lance Guest on this list. How about for you, Ryan?
I have 3. I had Alex. I'll give him the edge for Beta Alex, though. But
Okay.
I think you're right. He did pretty well overall.
Yeah.
2, I have Maggie, Catherine, Mary Stewart, and I had
Yeah.
Centauri, Robert Preston at number 1.
All right.
Nice.
Lots of love for Robert Preston as well, and well deserved. That guy is a legend.
And by the way, after that guy interrupted us at Los Compadres and said that this was his favorite film,
Yeah.
when I got home, I was almost convinced that was actually the guy that played Alex.
Oh,
Wow.
Lance Guest?
Lance
Yeah,
Guest.
I'm sure he wasn't.
Does he live in
yes,
Burlington?
because I just looked back and it was like the only other person who's my age that would love this film
Is Lance
would
Guest?
the guy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, JP Dozier came in and said that Lewis was number 3 for him. He goes, I know I've ripped on child actors in the
that's
past on this show.
Yeah,
but Lewis was played really well. He was the annoying little brother who loved to shoot people with suction darts and
was
had
awesome.
Playboys.
That dart
He
thing was awesome.
liked that about him, I guess.
Yeah.
He had Robert Preston at number 2
Different times.
and Dan O'Hurley as Greg number 1. I'd love watching him every time he was on screen. And the stuff between him and Alex was deep and funny. He said it was like Alex was like, or it was like the Ben Kenobi to Luke Skywalker kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want a public service announcement?
What's that? Don't get in cars with strange people?
No, well, that's true too. But actually, the average age of most children's exposure to pornography is like 11.
And this kid's 10, so maybe it wasn't all that inaccurate. So there you go. David, Don't Call Me Paul Parkinson went with Robert Preston number 3, Dan O'Hurley at number 2, and Lance Guest at number 1 for Dave as well. And then Melissa said Beta Alex number 3. I thought he was better than regular Alex. Greg number 2. Again, credits how well he performed through the prosthetics. And number 1, she said Will Wheaton because she had a big crush on him.
Yes, she crushed on Will Wheaton. Yeah, we had to rewind this movie and watch it.
Just kidding, Robert Preston, but you know, all that. So I know we'll skip through this because we normally talk about how Arnold would have made this better. I think it's clear you can put him in any part besides probably the teenagers, and he would. I mean, imagine him.
Dude.
He should have been
as the poop commander.
Yeah.
No.
What are we going to do? We're going to crash into the moon. We will die.
I think he would have been a great Zerg.
Except when the monocle closes in front of him, it just breaks because his eye socket crushes it. His muscles. We die.
I'd like to see Arnold as Zerg.
As Zer? I mean, sure. Yeah. Me too.
Spoiled
Give me my
little brat.
scepter
Think of a
now!
giant Arnold head projected into that room.
Do you know who my father is?
So I look at this. Look at all you people down here with your little bald heads,
yes.
your little babies. You look around, running around like ants, so it will crush you. That's would have been great.
See? You could have totally made that part better.
Guys, let's land on something here so we can put a bow on this thing and get to our, if you're on Patreon, a fun thing you're going to want to get on there and check out after this. But before we can get to that, we got to decide. Ultimately, I know we've tossed around a lot of things about this movie, but where do you land? Is it objectively a good movie and it's enjoyable, so it's just a straight up good movie? Or do you say objectively it's bad as a film, but I enjoy it, therefore it's a bad movie that rules? Or is it objectively bad and it's just not even enjoyable, and so it's just full stop bad movie? Kids Table, you can go first this time. Where do you come out on this one, Ryan? What's the carpet scale here?
The carpet scale on this one is the dog made it to the patio door and shit right in front of the patio door. Didn't quite make it out. Didn't quite make it over the line. Not a good movie. But it's not a bad one either. I can't consciously say
Kinda
it's
just kick
a
it out.
bad movie. Yeah, it's
So a bad movie that
it's
rules
a bad
for you?
movie that rules. You like Ryan.
Okay.
So you just kind of nudge the dog shit out. Dried overnight. You just nudge it out the
Nudge it
door
out
the
the
next
door.
morning and
Wasn't
move
diarrhea.
on. No, it wasn't diarrhea.
Doesn't stick, you're just good to go.
Yeah, you're good to go.
gotcha. All right, where you at, Doc?
It's a bad movie.
Full stop?
Even cutting out the CGI.
You didn't even enjoy it?
That's sad.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
And
but
can I
you're
tell you
entitled
something
to your
that's
wrong
really gonna hurt
opinion,
your
so
fart?
it's fine.
Hurt your fart? Hurt your heart.
You said it hurts my heart.
Do you want to know what's going to hurt your heart more?
Uh-oh.
Oh boy, here we go.
Just do
The
it.
two roles I least enjoyed
Oh, no.
Yeah?
were Greg and Centuri.
How? Those guys are screen legends.
Well, see, again,
They
if
were
you,
really
didn't like,
annoying.
if you didn't like them, then of
What?
course it would be a bad
Yeah,
movie.
they were
and
really
if you didn't
annoying
know,
to me.
did you know who Robert Preston was
No,
beforehand? Or
So
have
you
seen
were
Music
annoyed
Man?
by them, and so therefore you hated the whole movie. I was annoyed by the kid, and
Right.
so we had a similar situation where I just had an allergic reaction to the kid.
Right.
And so I thought, well, he's a bad actor. When he's not a bad actor, he's got to play it annoying
Well, and,
kid.
Well, I
and
think
I
it's-
didn't even
yeah.
chalk it up as them being bad at their job. I didn't enjoy their roles, and it.
When I just shows how much context matters, because if you had the
Yeah.
context of Music Man and some of these other things, you might have
Maybe.
felt differently. But if
Yeah.
somebody like even like with Aiden, your son, that just watched it for the first time as a young person that didn't have the context of 84 and all that, I'm sure it has to affect your opinion of it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'd feel differently if I never saw this. I mean, we watched Buckaroo Banzai, that movie that everybody loves,
And it
and I
sucks.
missed it in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so now I watched it as a 42-year-old, and I was like, this is trash.
I
Yeah.
couldn't watch it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is there someone crying?
I'm just saying, not to get down that rabbit hole, but
Sorry.
for me, you guys, it's. I'm going to say that there's too much from a technical standpoint that holds it back from being objectively good.
Yeah.
I don't think the problems are. I think the script is a objectively good script, incredible writing, great dialogue, good plotting. but the technical limitations hold them back. So I'm going to say it's a bad movie that absolutely rules. I think it's a fantastic film, personally, as far as my enjoyment goes.
Right.
But that's where I come down on it. How about for you, Charles?
I think it's a good movie.
Straight up.
Straight up.
All right.
Considering the fact that no one did that, they couldn't even make an actual video game with those graphics at the time. So I think it's a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
When I was going into it, I thought this is a great movie.
Yeah.
And then I watched it with my son and my wife, and I realized it was a terrible movie. and then I watched it again by myself, sort of in a closet.
Back to your inner nerd.
It's like, don't let them hear me watching it. And the very fact that I was watching it by myself and enjoying it, despite the fact that I know that other people think it's bad, makes me think it is definitely a bad movie that rules. Because I was so pleased. At the end of it, I was sitting there just grinning, watching this stupid movie, and it's like that's like the indication right there that it's a bad movie that rules. That you're just enjoying. You're having a great time, even though you know you shouldn't. It's just great. Yeah.
I thought to myself, this shouldn't be on our podcast.
Oh, you thought it was that good?
I did.
Okay.
I had wondered whether it should be, but then
the reaction across the board kind of proves maybe it belonged here, right? Considering the different array of opinions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll leave you here with our patrons. I'll give you the short two first, and then we'll let JP Dozier wrap it up since this was his favorite movie of all time. But Dave Parkinson said, flat out good movie. Loved it for years.
All right, Dave. You're
awesome
right.
80s effects. Gamer Outcast saves the universe. He must have connected to that as well.
Yeah.
And so he says flat out good. Now, Melissa Hewitt said, good movie that's good. Even my senior in high school son and my 13-year-old daughter were impressed with the graphics for the time period. It was watchable and humorous. My daughter thought it should be longer and more developed, but still liked it. I would watch it again. So JP Dozier, here he says, is this a good movie? Hell no. It's a freaking awesome movie. I actually saw this movie before I saw Star Wars and love it today like the first time I ever saw this movie. Now, the CGI nowhere comes close to holding up today, but everything else about it is still solid. I love the idea that if you really got good at video gaming, you could be recruited by an alien Starfleet to defend the galaxy.
That's a great line.
Also, I wanted Centauri's car so bad as a kid. One day I hope to be able to get my kids to sit down and enjoy the whole movie with me. My brothers and I will still, to this day, say the great line to each other when we know we are screwed. What do? We die.
We die.
Nice.
All right.
I would recommend he not watch it with his children if Rob experiences anything to go by. You might end up watching it on your own going, no, it's really a good movie. I
think, part of it is the heart of the movie, the way that it has this optimism and it has this hope.
Yeah.
And if you buy into that, then you're going to love it.
That's, I think, the reason it works for me is specifically that tone of the film saves it.
I was surprised my kids liked it, honestly, because they
you
didn't
go.
say a whole
And I
lot
think-
through the movie, but my son stands up and says, that was pretty good. And my daughter says, yeah.
There you go.
I think the writing definitely showed that there was promise in it.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't. Yeah.
I got you. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this trip down memory lane for some of you. And if you haven't seen Last Starfighter, go watch it. Form your own opinion. I think it's definitely worth watching wherever you come down on it. It's eminently watchable. That's not in question here. And so go and check it out. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode. And next week, tune in because we got a poll winner from the patrons. Last week was The Last Stand, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And I didn't even have to print ballots at 3 a.m.
That's right.
to get through.
If you want to watch Arnold stop a drug cartel lord from crossing the border into Mexico, he's making the last stand in Texas or wherever the heck, New Mexico, I don't know where they are. But his town is the last town before you get to Mexico.
I think it's Texas, but I don't know.
I don't know where it is. But regardless, that's what we're going to talk about.
Lots of places.
The 2013 movie. So if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it and prep for the episode.
It's a big border across Mexico.
In the meantime, on behalf of Rob King and Charles
big as
Hewitt
Canada's.
and Ryan Mueller and the doctor, Ryan Madela, I'm James Hauser. Thank you for listening.
I don't think Georgia butts up against Mexico at all. No.
There's no one left. You're the only Starfighter.
I think that I'm not gonna sing.
Oh, come on.
I don't sing. I forgot it's a
Old
singing
guy
part.
is gonna kidnap you.
You gotta do it in Robert Preston's Music Man voice.
I can't do
Let's
this.
put down that porno.
Unleash the douchebag into the universe. Yeah.
Give me my scepter!
You're the only one. No one else is here. Gotta kill all the ships and get back to Maggie. None of that rhymed. I don't care.
Just go hide in a giant butthole.
Music doesn't have to rhyme anymore.
I got to get a colonoscopy after that episode.